I started to realize that I had these unconscious patterns, that I was repeating myself over and over. I was in a fight with a girlfriend. Everything that I was saying to her, like word for word, were things that I had said to previous girlfriends.
Wow.
Like I'm in an unconscious pattern and I have no idea what it is, and it scared the shit out of me.
It's been a long and bloody history to become the humans that we are today. So like, how long have these wounds been propagating?
If I dehumanize the one who is evil, then am I not also evil? Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do.
Each and every one of us are carrying some aspect of that shadow.
It's a lot of baggage we're all carrying.
It's a lot of healing.
You know, talk about shadow work.
Dude.
But you got to go back and confront your pain. There's no other way. I learned also just to be with my fear. Like, is this fear legitimate or is this something from my history? But I can't make that determination unless I've actually come into contact with it.
The other thing about Bitcoiners is that we're highly disagreeable. When you see that many disagreeable people coming into agreement about one thing, the level of your conviction skyrockets, basically.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, fuck. I've been on this health journey for like 9 years. So it's like dealing with gut inflammation, and I've come a long way, but it's not completely resolved. And so one of the things that's been helpful to me more recently is this idea. I think when it first started, I was like, oh, there's a problem I need to solve. I need to go heal this up right now. You know, like that was my young man mentality, basically. And then over time, you know, trying to work with it and figure it out, it's like I improved it, but I never fully resolved it.
Through diet, mostly?
Through diet, mostly diet, but also lifestyle changes. So like light, circadian rhythm, all of this stuff has been helpful. Also some detox stuff. Recently, I've been trying to change my orientations. Like you have to actually befriend it. Kind of like the shadow work stuff we were just talking about. There's this strange, like what you resist persists thing. Right. But then when you find a way to embrace it and like find gratitude for the things it's actually brought into my life that are good, that it's forced me to become very serious about my diet, my health, and all these things. And as a result, I'm generally quite healthy, despite the fact I've had an issue in my gut. And so,
how does it manifest? Like what gut issues?
It's evolved over time, but the current issue is sensitivity to carbohydrates. So when I eat carbohydrates, I was actually on the phone with my doctor today. Her hypothesis is that they ferment in my large intestine because I have a bacterial imbalance. And so we're trying to like rebuild that microbiome, but it was worse previously. So it's gotten better actually.
You know what it's about? Why?
I've tried to retrospectively put the pieces together. And so what I've gathered up till this point is I had 4 root canals done pretty like 6 months prior to the issue starting, which I drew no connection about whatsoever until a year ago when I saw the root cause documentary, that these root canals can be problematic systemically. Like people have issues all over the place from just a root canal.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And not everyone, but like you can have things that you would never associate with a tooth because of a root canal. And so I had that done. And I also had, in my 20s, just put a lot of miles on the body, let's say. And
a good time.
Yeah. And I think also the standard American diet growing up, you know, my mom wasn't super health conscious. So I just ate not well until I learned about it when I was like 18, 20 years old. So.
Right.
Some combination.
Interesting. I always wonder if these things, I mean, just because my orientation, I always go to like the emotional part of it. Like, where is it somehow connected to some unresolved emotional issue that I have, and it's manifesting in this way, and it's a signal for something.
Yes. No, I'm probably emotionally repressed from childhood. Like I've always been kind of low enthusiasm. I'm not super happy-go-lucky. And I think maybe it is related to that, some type of just emotional.
Can I ask you about your childhood when you say you're emotionally repressed?
Yeah, I've shared a little bit of it, but like my mom was an alcoholic. Also probably some kind of multiple personality or schizophrenia of some kind. Like she's very unpredictable in her personality phases. So oftentimes when I'm coming home from school, I don't know who I'm coming home to, you know, a very wide spectrum of possibilities. Including her not being there at all, you know, so it's like we just didn't know. And so it was rough. Like
scary.
I was growing up. I mean, people have definitely had worse, but psychologically for me, it was unstable from like the age of 8 to 18. And so I think I'm working through that now.
Right.
And the Reiki that we were talking about just before, like that's kind of the woman that I'm working with to work on my gut. She is into the woo, so to speak. And this was one of the people that she recommended highly. And as I was telling you, it was like kind of the edge of the woo for me, you know, like a believer in breath work, but Reiki, which is energy healing. I've never done it. And I was like, yeah, that's probably at the edge of my Overton window or whatever you want to say. But after 3 sessions with her, it's been amazing. Like I'm a believer now.
Yeah.
So I respect and acknowledge the emotional side of things, because if Tesla's right and the secrets of the universe are energy, frequency, and vibration, well, then you carry the vibration of all your experiences across your life. So of course that can imprint on you, right?
Yeah.
Your water, right? You could read the book like The Secret Life of Water, where he photographed water molecules, and you can see the results of the energy words carry. So yeah, trying to do something about that.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, I mean, in terms of the energy, you know, my training was in somatic psychotherapy, and so it's of the body, but it's really energy, right? And so when you use the word energy, it's energy, you can feel the energy. And so it does sound a little bit woo-woo, but then you think about in life, everybody's always talking about energy.
Yes.
Right? Like, I have good energy, that guy's got weird energy.
Yes, the vibe.
And the vibe, exactly. And what I learned is to be able to really read energy.
Yeah.
But it's like you read it through the vibration. So it's like if I tune into you, if we have an agreement, like I can't tune into you unless you consent in some way and we have this agreement. But if I did, right, like I can feel things in my body in relationship to you, and that what I feel is information about you.
Interesting.
That's how it works. And so it also is, you realize that everything is interconnected.
Yes.
And it's almost impossible to, I mean, sovereignty. Yes. Yeah. And it on one level, it's impossible because we're all interconnected, and you can't escape the impact that other human beings have on you, on your psychology, how you think, your consciousness, and where you're at this moment in time, which is kind of disturbing in a way, because I want to be free. Yeah. You know, I want to know my own mind. I want to know that what I'm doing is because it's what I want to do, but I don't know that that's a thing.
No, dude, you're so correct. And there's so many frameworks that inform this for me. Because obviously, like, I'm libertarian or anarcho-capitalist, so the big believer in the individual, but I've actually appreciated recently the distinction between the individual and a person, whereas an individual is a bit more of a social or socioeconomic reality, a legal reality. Yeah. That the person is a bit more comprehensive of what we really are, you know, like our full vibrational pattern, let's say, something like that. And this idea, there's mimesis by Rene Girard, like that all human action is imitative, and that we basically become composites of all the personalities we've ever interacted with across time. Not in like a linear fashion, but it's the people that inspired us or inspired awe in us that we tend to imitate more. So people that are typically higher up the hierarchy, and whatever hierarchy you're in, tend to get imitated more.
I definitely do that.
Yeah.
I'm imitating all the time.
Yes, you can't help it, really. Yeah. And what was the other framework? I mean, I've lost the second one, but like there's all these things where the interconnectedness, well, I mean, it goes all the way back to Plato, frankly, right? Like Plato's concept of the one. Yeah. It's not the arithmetic one, like 0, 1, 2. It's the oneness of all things, that everything is actually whole and connected. Yeah. So and I've had these experiences with either in meditative states or psychedelics where you can feel like your thought vibration. And if sometimes my thought would deviate, maybe be a little askew, I would feel or sense that it changes the reality around you a little bit, you know, people mostly, and so that was like, whoa, that's actually a thing. I need to be very serious about how I talk to myself, what I'm thinking about, and taking that responsibility. I don't think it contradicts freedom though, actually, you know, because you still get to choose who you spend time with, right? Yeah. Tim Ferriss says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Everyone's a product of their environment, however you want to put it, but you still have this freedom to choose to some extent. I mean, I guess not completely, but
I think so. I want to think that. I guess ultimately there's certain things that are unknowable. But if you follow astrology, I'm not big into astrology, but I hang around a lot of people who are, my wife included, and they tell me these things, and they're interesting to think about. Is that we are entering the age of Aquarius, or we're in the age of Aquarius, coming out of the age of Pisces.
As an Aquarius, I love this, by the way.
Oh, you're an Aquarius. Okay. This is your age.
Yeah.
So I guess, well, it does make sense. It's about sovereignty because we're coming out of this collectivism where we had to, I guess, conform to survive. And now we're coming into a new age of the individual.
Yeah.
And I guess I think about it, you know, what you said, we're more individual. We don't have to completely conform to the group. But maybe we can learn to be ourselves and stay connected to the group. And that's not something that we've ever thought about before. That we can be totally free and sovereign, but also with the group. It's not one or the other.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I try to practice. And it's one of the things that I try to teach. It's like, you know, on the simplest level, like be all of who you can be. Like express yourself, be here. Don't betray yourself in relationship to other people. Can I be all of who I am with you?
Yes.
Or, you know, am I modulating myself so that you'll like me? You know, controlling in some way, not being authentic, maybe not saying a certain thing because I'm afraid that it might create some disconnection. I don't want that. But then later I resent it because I can't be myself with you, and then I blame you, but it's actually me. And there's a way, I mean, you were talking about it earlier. It's like, I want to be radically honest, right? With your wife and with your friends. And at first you're like, I can't say that. But then you realize on the other side of the discomfort, it's more liberating, and there's more connection. You come into deeper connection.
100%, like way more fundamental connection.
Yeah.
Where you start to get, I mean, this is secondhand from John Vervaeke, but he said there's something about love where specifically romantic love, the person always has to remain a mystery of you to some extent, right? Like you have a model of your partner inside, but the map will never be the territory. And that's part of what makes love work. Because if you ever fully mapped or modeled them, then it's no longer, first of all, it's not possible. But then if you could do it, it like wouldn't really be love. There's this mystery that draws us into one another continuously. And he talks about love as reciprocal opening, basically, between those two poles. And something about just putting all that on the bedrock of truth allows it to integrate a lot better. I mean, all I have is anecdotal experience of my own life. I don't have any facts to back that up, but it's felt very true for me. And it seems like, you know, I always go back to this quote. I probably say this. This is the one quote I can attribute properly because it's Carl Jung. And he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will continue to direct your life and you will call it fate.
Yeah.
And so talking about these things like, oh, all human action is imitative, or, you know, we're all interconnected, we're all fluid. Again, I don't think that takes away the freedom necessarily. It's like in establishing this knowledge, we can actually expand our freedom. It's like if you're aware that you are, let's say, the product of 5 people you spend the most time with, then you can get very serious about being selective, right? Choosing people that are aligned with your values, your vision of your future self, whatever your direction you're trying to take your growth trajectory, you can choose people that suit that aim.
Yeah.
And so feels more liberating to me, even though you're discovering that you're actually not so much of an individual, which is kind of paradoxical.
Yeah, that is interesting. Well, that's precisely, that quote was really the reason that I got into all the work I do. I started in therapy when I was,
that quote.
No, well, that idea, that concept, when I later found that quote, I'm with you. It's like a quote that I go back to all the time. I just was preparing a lesson earlier today and I used that quote in the lesson for sure. But I started to realize that I had these unconscious patterns.
Okay.
That I was, repeating myself over and over. I was in a fight with a girlfriend. Yeah. And I was like 30, 31. And I was, you do this and you do this. And why is it always like this? Just, bitching and complaining. It's her fault. And I realized in the middle of the fight that everything that I was saying to her, like word for word, were things that I had said to previous girlfriends.
Wow.
Like that was the word for word, like the languaging really indicated, oh, I'm in a pattern here. I'm in an unconscious pattern.
Wow.
And I have no idea what it is. And it scared the shit out of me because it's like, I'm not conscious. Like I'm not free. Like I'm running something here. I don't necessarily think that was true of my entire life, but it was certainly true in relationship. And that really began the serious journey. I'd already done some therapy at that point, but the serious journey into therapy, because I just was like, I gotta get to the bottom of this. Like I have to know what's there. Like why am I running this pattern? And do I know? Yeah. I think I do know. Getting out of it is a little harder because those patterns are they protect you. They think they are protecting you from really annihilation. And so when you're in an emotional situation, even when I'm triggered now with my wife, which we have a lot of comfort and safety, it still comes up. I still see her through the lens of my shit with my mother. I can see that she's seeing me through the lens of her stuff with her father in these moments, right? Now we recover from it much quicker now, and we can bring consciousness to it, but it's still gets activated.
Dude, honestly, I thank you for sharing, first of all. But I think it's related to that imitation thing. Like if that's true, then we would imitate our parents most, right? Because we were in our most formative years with our parents. So we do absorb, obviously not everyone spends that time with their parents, but most of us do. So we absorb dad wound, mom wound, whatever it is, wounds perhaps. And, it's been a long and bloody history to become the humans that we are today. Yeah. So like how long have these wounds been propagating,
Well, and there's been there's been philosophy in Eastern mysticism, but the concept of the unconscious is really brand new. Like we're still at the beginning stages, I think, of understanding like psychology in that way. So we're just learning. We're still learning and undoing it. And I think we maybe because the species is out of survival mode, basically, which is also a new thing that now we have the time, or the average person has the time to go to therapy and try to understand themselves because they're not just out on the plains trying to 100% survive.
Dude, that's an excellent point. And GDP per capita is flat for all of human history until like the 1700s, right? The industrial age. Then it goes vertical. So we didn't have the luxury for therapy.
Yeah.
Except for the past 300-ish years, probably. Like if there was anything before that, it was probably reserved for only the ultra wealthy. Right. And so we're excavating, right? There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
And since we stood up somewhere between 4 and 2 million years ago, I don't know the exact number, but humans have been upright for a few million years at least. So that's a lot of time.
Yeah. It's a lot of baggage we're all carrying.
It's a lot of healing.
a lot of murder and rape.
Yes. Exactly.
And tyranny and pain.
Yes.
Talk about shadow work.
Dude, that makes it so interesting. So we are carrying, if the theory of the collective unconscious is true, which if everything's energy, frequency, and vibration, it almost has to be, right? Where there is a spirit to humanity, if you will, then we are carrying, each and every one of us are carrying some aspect of that shadow.
Yeah, that's how it feels to me.
Gulp.
Yeah, there's a Genghis Khan inside me. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. A conqueror, rapist, killer, enjoys it, pile the bodies up. I mean, we're descendant of those people.
Dude, Jordan Peterson says this in his early lectures, when you read books about whatever atrocity, there's been lots of them, you have to understand that the person that did that lives in you.
That's right.
That potentiality lives in you. It's unavoidable. You can't argue. You can't say, no, not me. It's again, if in conditions of extreme, I don't know, either scarcity, psychological manipulation, moments of rage, you get all these things mixed together. People are capable of very worse than animalistic things, right? We've taken torture to to a level of scientific precision that no animal ever would.
Yeah.
And that's the dark side. But then we can also use that same tool set, symbolic language, math, all these things, and we can point it the other direction, right? If we have the right ethical alignment, I don't know. I go here to Christ as like a role model. It's like we need someone to imitate.
Yeah.
And so Christ is like this archetype, like just imitate that as best you can, and you'll avoid this as best as possible.
I don't know if you read the Howard Bloom book, The Lucifer Principle.
No.
It's an interesting one because he makes the case, the evolutionary case for evil. Evil exists. I mean, he defines it in his own way. And then he goes throughout history and shows how these evil forces have actually pushed evolution. They've pushed progress so that you need evil, which is, a confronting idea that you can't actually get rid of it. And I had that, and I'm sure it was informed by what I read, but like a kind of, I was on a vision quest, 4 days, 4 nights, no food or water. And it breaks you down in quite some way.
No water, 4 days.
No water. Yeah. Yeah. It does something to you.
Wow.
And I've done it a couple of times, but you're out there to get a vision. And the one that I got was really about that. There's no separation between the light and the dark. It's one thing.
Yeah.
Nature has no judgment, no preference. Yeah. And the moment you accept that, you're free.
Yeah.
And that's a very confronting message. Nature has no judgment or no preference, meaning I interpret that over good or evil.
Right.
And so our free will is really like, you have the capacity for evil, and your free will is like, you can choose that. You can choose that if you want.
Yes.
And that is a potentiality, and that exists in you. And nature doesn't care.
Right. Nature doesn't care. That's right.
You know what I mean? Like nature doesn't care. And that's a big tenet of my work. What I'm trying to teach people is like, exactly what you said. Like, are you willing to own those dark parts of you?
Yes.
Like, know that potentiality lives in you, but also that you've probably acted it out, not in those extreme ways, but in subtle ways when you're in a little fight with your partner and you withdraw, your love, and the intention there is to punish.
Right.
Like
or you lash out.
You lash out. There's cruelty in it. You want to hurt them.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You're not a Nazi, but
you're on the path.
And you rationalize it in your mind.
Sure.
Later, hopefully you come and take responsibility. But in those moments, you rationalize.
Yes. Yes. No.
And so we all have it in us.
I'm so glad you said it is ultimately a choice, though, because that's really, again, it's like you land. This is why I think freedom is such a philosophically fascinating word.
But it's only a choice if you know that you have it in you.
If it's conscious.
If it's unconscious, it's not a choice. You act it out and then you rationalize it.
Right. It's
like, the fucking Jews. What was I supposed to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they were bad. Or the Trump supporters or whoever. You make an enemy.
There it is. It's the labeling.
Yeah.
It's the labeling. What is the propaganda definition? That the purpose of propaganda is to make one group of humans forget that another group of humans are human.
That's right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it is that labeling. And the definition of evil I wanted to share with you, and I'm not going to attribute it because I gave up on that. Evil is the force that believes its knowledge is complete. So the idea of having total knowledge about situation, person, anything, which I think if you really dig into it, is fundamentally impossible. Like physics has proved that reality is irreducibly complex. You actually cannot have totalizing knowledge about anything. Like that idea is obliterated basically. But totalitarianism that's what it is, right? Totalitarianism, totalizing knowledge. Our ideas are so good, we're going to beat you over the head to accept them. It's that kind of vibe. And this idea that evil, it's ultimately a choice. And it's the choice, I think, of not falling for that illusion that you think you have the right idea.
Yeah.
Because, to your point, nature is impartial and doesn't care. Even our models of nature don't care, right? Like they might be useful to us. And this goes as deep as subject-object duality, which many people think is fundamental, but it's actually just a category structure.
That's right.
We're superimposing on the world, right? There's a continuum between myself and the world. There's no distinct boundary. And so when you mistake the map for the territory, so to speak, and you think you have a total map of the world or someone, you start to put that label.
That's right.
You're like, oh, you know what you are? You're just an anti-vaxxer. You're just a this, or whatever slur gets assigned. And then you start the process of dehumanization. But if you actually realize that your model is never the complex reality underlying, then maybe we'd have enough fucking humility to like chill out and actually try to follow a role model that doesn't engage in that activity. So like, although evil is always there, I used to think of it as like the quality assurance testing on the software of the good. Like the good's very productive and generative, but then evil's always testing its structural integrity, trying to feed on it. And so the more good we create things, the more we can push it off.
That's
but it is ultimately a choice, I think. And that's what I hope people can internalize. It's like, it's not inevitable. It's not like you say, oh, good and evil is inevitable. Like, well, fuck it. I'll just go be evil then.
I mean, although maybe it's inevitable in the collective, like that you actually have to have evil. So in that way, you have to honor the bad guys in some way because they're serving some purpose. They are serving this evolutionary purpose. And I know for me, I mean, I see a lot of evil in the world right now. I didn't see that when I was growing up, maybe just because I wasn't looking for it, but it seems like it's more in our face right now. And it's caused me to get closer to God. It's caused me to let go of some of my distortion, some of my selfishness, the desire to be seen or recognized or have status. I realize how, insignificant that is. And so in one level, I'm grateful for all the people who've been labeling me and judging me and making me bad and making me wrong and have been, corrupted in my opinion, because it's forced me to get right with myself. So, in that sense, they've served a purpose.
No, that's well said. I was sharing recently that it occurred to me at some point that it's actually makes more sense to be grateful for the adversity you've been through. Because that's what actually shapes you. Whereas your wins and your successes are kind of just you running what's already working. You know? It's not really sculpting you as much. It can, I guess, a little bit, often the wrong direction. Right? People don't deal with decadence so well, for instance. Have you ever wanted to live in an off-grid community with complete food, energy, and water independence? If so, then you need to check out the farm at Okefenokee. The farm is a pioneering community designed to foster longevity and well-being, eliminating elements that detract from these goals. At the farm, the convergence of nature, nutritious food, a supportive community, and the ethos of slowing down is unparalleled. Positioned at the gateway to the UNESCO World Heritage-nominated Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge, the farm at Okefenokee stands as a testament to a lifestyle that truly nurtures health and happiness. Unlike conventional housing developments where a token communal garden may suffice, the farm itself is the community. Small, intimate micro-villages seamlessly integrate into the fabric of a sprawling agricultural community. So if you're interested in joining this off-grid community, then go to okefarm.com today to learn more about becoming a member. Make sure to tell them that I sent you for a $21,000 discount on their custom cabin pricing. Again, go to okefarm.com to learn more about joining this revolutionary regenerative agriculture community. iCoin Technology has released a slick new hardware wallet. It looks like a mini iPhone with a high-res 3-inch touchscreen and camera on it. The device has no Wi-Fi, no cellular connection, and no GPS. It is an air-gapped hardware wallet which uses QR codes and a camera to communicate with the Bitcoin network. It has a built-in camera which is required for air-gap operation, and it has an optional Bluetooth compatibility. It's really a brand new user interface and user experience for a Bitcoin hardware wallet. iCoin makes self-custody accessible, easy to use, and non-intimidating. It even comes with an optional custom iCoin thermal printer so you can print out the private key and its associated QR code when you're setting up the wallet. This makes setup quick and simple. Also, it is easy to restore the wallet just by reading the seed phrase QR code with the wallet camera. And as we always talk about on this show, the only way you can truly own your Bitcoin is by having it in self-custody. So you need a device like the iCoin wallet to truly own your Bitcoin. So go to iCointechnology.com/breedlove today for 30% off the purchase of this sleek new hardware wallet. Again, that's iCointechnology.com/breedlove. So you said honoring evil. Ooh, I've never heard that said before. Like, do we honor evil by fighting evil, or is there? Can we?
Yeah, no.
Because it seems like it also needs to be fought against.
I agree. Yeah. Fought against. But I guess if I dehumanize the one who is evil, then am I not also evil?
Exactly.
So I have to be able to see them in their humanity, understand that they're in a place of primarily fear, maybe even terror, you would say.
And ignorance.
And that they're acting out. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do.
Exactly what
and but nevertheless, I need to put a sword through their heart because they are evil. And I need to protect what's mine. But can I do that from a place of being in reality, about the actual situation, and not to otherize and not let myself go to evil? I think that's a really hard thing to hold in yourself. And I think it's a much harder thing to understand.
Dude, I think you just brilliantly summed up the vortex we've been trapped in across all of human history, is that subtle line, right? Where someone gets even labeling as evil.
Yeah.
Right? How many religious wars have been fought where both of them are fighting for God?
That's right.
And they're slaying the evil ones.
Yeah.
But the reality is obviously just an ideological collision of sorts. And so, but this is where forgiveness is indispensable.
Yeah.
Right? You actually we can't, if we just blame everyone's bloodline, then every bloodline gets eliminated, it looks like. And maybe that's not entirely true. Like, who knows? Who could know? But it's almost like you have to have, what it reminds me of? Sorry to nerd out for a minute. You've heard of the prisoner's dilemma in game theory.
Yeah.
Right? It's 4x4 game matrix, defect or don't defect. The players, if they can't communicate, the prisoners can't communicate with one another, but if they could both collude and get like an optimal outcome. But since they can't, they're incentivized to like betray one another, and that gives them a suboptimal outcome. So it's a game theoretic suboptimal outcome that people often use in game theory. They ran, like, what do they call these, Monte Carlo simulations, where they play this game hundreds of millions of times. That might not be the right term, but they just iterate the game a lot, and they tried different strategies, and they had a competition to see who could introduce a strategy that could beat the standard strategy, which is tit for tat. And tit for tat is just where I just copy your last move.
Yeah.
Right? If you, cooperate, I cooperate.
Right.
If you defect, I defect. And we just mirror one another.
I just watched a video about this, so I'm familiar.
Oh, so you're with it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then basically, they had the competition, and modified tit for tat was actually the optimal strategy. And modified tit for tat is like, you basically do that, tit for tat, but randomly, like mutation almost, you just forgive occasionally. And it actually created way more optimal outcomes in terms of players getting what they want.
Yeah.
It moved it towards a positive sum game, away from a zero sum game.
Yeah.
And that forgiveness, we were talking about forgiveness, is like, you actually have to encode it into human existence, because we fuck up a lot. And we can fuck up really bad too. I'm sorry. I was going to try to start cursing, but that was a lot of fucks.
Yeah, I like the word fuck. Sometimes it's necessary. I want to be forgiven. I heard something recently that was really interesting. It's from The People of the Lie, which is a book. What the hell's the guy's name? He wrote The Road Less Traveled, but it's a book about the shadow. And the premise was in this place where we refuse to forgive ourselves. Okay, which is a common. That's actually a question I ask all of my clients.
Is that shame?
Related? Yes, it is about shame. Yeah. Where do I refuse to forgive myself? And that'll point you to your shame. And we can become very attached to our shame because, again, it's its own defense, right? We don't want to give it up. And so it's not like where I won't forgive myself. It's where do I refuse?
Yes.
Right. To forgive myself. Yes. So this guy made the point, like, God is always willing to forgive you. And so when you refuse to forgive yourself, you're putting yourself above God. I was like, that's so good. I'm going to use that.
Wow. Wow.
You're putting, it's a kind of narcissism, right?
Yeah.
And it just changed something for me, that languaging. It's like, yeah, I'm putting myself above God when I stay attached to my shame, when I refuse to forgive myself.
Oh, victimhood narcissism.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And we indulge in it, right? It feels good. Like I'm bad. Yeah. I'm this person. I mean, I had that, less and less.
Yeah. The way you said that though, I think kind of made more sense for me all of a sudden. Like these things are better conceived of as complexes that live within us. Mm-hmm. Right. Even our language is maybe a little wrong. We're to say like, I have shame. It's like, there's other languages that translate to something more like shame is with me, something like that. And I feel like that subtle difference might actually be important in how you relate to it.
Absolutely.
Right? Instead of someone just internalizing this static state of I have shame. And it's like, no, it's one of the many energetic complexes, psychological complexes that you live with. And you can change your orientation towards it over time through, well, obviously you know a lot more about this than me, but just that conceptual change of like looking at it as a part of you rather than you.
That's right. I mean, there's a kind of therapy called parts work. And so you're looking at yourself as parts. And a big part of the therapeutic process, the healing process is, you have to disidentify with these aspects of yourself. If you're identified with your anger, like I'm an angry person.
Yes.
Well, you're going to only perpetuate the anger because we tend to act in a way that is consistent with our identity, with our self-image. Mm-hmm. And so, you want to be very careful about the language that you use. And that really is the way that there's a lot of ways to define shame and think about shame. But the way that I think about it at its core, it's like, it's the belief that I am bad. Mm-hmm. Like there's something about me that's bad, that's not okay. And that we become identified with it. And it's like, so we contract around it.
And not like a Michael Jackson bad, like a wrong bad, right?
Yeah. Not like Barry Bonds crushing a home run bad.
Yeah.
But like bad, like at my core, like I'm not okay, which children can very easily come to believe because most children are not all children go through narcissistic phases. Everything is about them. And if your dad leaves or your mom's not nice to you, there's really no other way for a child to interpret that as there's something wrong with me. Like I'm unlovable. There's something in my core that's not okay. And so then their whole identity is going to shape around that. They're going to develop a defense around that, a protective mechanism, and it's going to be different for different people depending on the circumstances. But underneath it all is this place where it's like they don't believe in their fundamental goodness. They believe that they're bad. And so that keeps them perpetually separate from themselves, from God, from other people. And that's really at the seed of the suffering. And of course, you can imagine if you think that you're bad and you're disconnected, that you're going to also have some place that's going to want to exact your revenge on the world. Like that shame is also can be the seed of like our shadow. Like if we believe that we're bad, we're more likely to act out in bad ways because that's what we believe about ourselves, and we want to confirm that belief. That's how the psyche works. So, it's just deep.
Yes. And again, I think I like the way you structurally describe things because it like makes it easy for me to get. But like the identity is like just built up of these layers of belief, basically, right? And so it can ossify, but it doesn't mean you can't renovate. You can always renovate. Yeah, and that's sort of what rationality is. Basically, is like you recognize that knowledge is finite, and you're this, creature that makes all kinds of mistakes all the time, and so you have to be willing to renovate. Yeah. When you've built on, proverbial sand or something. Yeah. So, man, how do we do that? How do we?
Well, you're doing it.
This is so. Yeah, but like. We talk about this highfalutin stuff, but then like when it comes to actually doing it consistently and I still find myself getting into unconscious patterns at times. For me, it was anger. I'm doing a lot better in life. Like I think as you age, it helps and all that. But meditation's been huge. My wife, just therapy, all the stuff like, it's good. Like as soon as we started even dating, we just immediately went to therapy. We're both like, let's just front run all this.
Yeah, nice.
Because we both had brought our own issues, obviously, as everyone does, into a relationship, and that mix has been tremendously helpful, but it is still extremely difficult, and I still fuck up all the time.
Yeah. Well, first thing that I'd say is it's great that somebody like you is talking about it, because, you have
likewise.
You have this big audience. You're this big muscle and smart guy. I mean, you're an impressive person to a lot of people, right? Yeah. And they're looking up to you. And so when they hear somebody like you say, oh, I've got these problems, I got issues, I still struggle with things, and I'm going to therapy, I'm working on it, I think that has a huge impact. And that's one of the reasons that I'm doing what I'm doing and having conversations with people like you, because I want to normalize it, particularly for men.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
The criticism of therapy is legitimate. Therapy is dominated by women. That's a true thing. And a lot of those women have gone to, left-leaning type schools. Sure. And there's a lot of men that feel, I don't want to have some therapist tell me my problems, or I got to renounce the patriarchy, or I have toxic masculinity. That doesn't resonate with me. So, and I'm with all that, but there's a way, I think, to do it. And, it sounds like you're doing it. I mean, I think it's having a strong intention, first of all, that like to be humble, to know that you don't know
for sure
things about yourself, and be humble about that, and know that you need reflection, and know that the issues that you're having in your life, they're solvable, right? Yes. And they're generally the way I think about it, it's like most of our issues are emotional issues, right? So we need to get the emotional root of things, which goes back to childhood. And I don't think we want to, again, it's like, oh, therapy spends too much time in childhood. That's a fair criticism as well, but you got to go back and confront your pain. There's no other way. We forget how scary it was. Like when you tell that story of coming home, and you don't know what your mother's going to be like, or if she's even going to be there, it's easy for you to forget, sitting here as a big strong man, how terrifying that must have felt for that 8-9-year-old boy, and how quickly you would have had to disassociate from those feelings.
Yes,
because there was no room to feel it, and nobody was there to help you make sense of it.
You're 100% correct. And I feel like, and I have made efforts to try to go into it more, but it actually is, it's almost like my brain has made it really unconscious. It's hard for me to access the memories. Yeah. I have another thing that a therapist told me years ago. I don't really know if it's true or not, but my semantic memory is really good, but my episodic memory is not so good. So I can remember facts, dates, words, whatever I'm reading, consuming, but guys are like, oh, remember that party we went to? Or, you jumped off this rock at the rock quarry. They'll tell some story about me that's like a significant story that I should probably remember, but then I just don't remember it. And so I've always kind of had that. And I don't know if that's related
maybe
to all that. But
I always think about that as when we're not remembering episodes, that we probably weren't fully present for the episode.
Yeah.
Which, is true for, I think, a lot of us, and because of, whatever trauma that we had. But where was your dad around?
No. So they just separated when I was 5. Okay. And I don't have a lot of memories of him. He visited a little bit after that. And just probably by the age of 6 or 7, I didn't see him again.
Ever?
No. He passed away when I was 21.
Wow.
Yeah. I talked to him on the phone once, like 6 months before he passed away. Of all days, I'd been trying to get in touch with him here off and on for years. And when I finally figured out where he was and got him on the phone, it was Father's Day, of course. I was 21 years old. I was working at a restaurant in Destin, Florida, literally waiting tables as a kid. I was just calling to get in touch with him, but he was dying, basically.
You knew he was dying?
Well, he told me he was dying. He said he had congestive heart failure, and he's dying, basically. And then he didn't seem too thrilled about meeting up. I got the sense that he thought I wanted something from him. And so it was kind of up to me to make the effort, and I just didn't make the effort.
Right.
And then he passed away, and then that was that. And I don't really feel, I know that's also not good, right? It's not a good relationship with your father, but I don't feel a lot from it, because after the age of 5 or 6, he was gone. But surely that's part of my shadow, right? And so what do we do? I was telling you, I was doing the shadow work yesterday, and she's asking me very strange questions. So how do people get an entry point into, before I ask you that question, I want to share one other thing to like throw in the mix here.
Yeah.
I was at a dinner the other night with like 3 really financially successful guys, but they're also really into Joe Dispenza's type work, meditation, all that. And we sat down. I knew one of the guys with I'd met one of them once, but met one of them for the first time. We immediately go into all this, like our trauma, this, blah, blah, blah. But then we also realized that we all used it as like a platform or something. Like the trauma drove you to do something.
Yeah.
Like it can be very driving, I guess, energizing, something. Could you just layer in, like, how do we access the shadow was the first sort of question and start to work on it. And then second of all, what is this? Is it like a bow and arrow? Like you're pulling something back with the shadow energy and you can shoot something forward? Because we all had our own version of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me first, thanks for sharing that. And I think your intuition is that there's probably more there.
Oh yeah.
Is correct. And I'll tell you a story about what I realized about my relationship with my father. My parents split when I was 6. My dad I knew him as a hockey player, right? He was a Canadian and played at the University of Denver. And so that was my image of him. And I was also a hockey player as a kid. And, but they split at 6, and then he was around a little bit, and then he was gone. And there was a large period of time where I didn't have any contact with him. And once I started this training, this somatic training, when one of the things you do is really get into your feelings, right? It's physical, it's active. It's not just talking, you're up, you're doing psychodramas, like pick somebody to play your father, say all the things you wanted to say to him.
Wow.
And it's like, you're just going all the way into it. It's a week long. So it's like every day the tension builds and your defenses release. So it's quite an experience.
And done in groups like that. That's
done
amazing.
in groups. And there was this master facilitator that I was working with. And she was really the one that inspired me to go down this path, because I thought, like, wow, what she's doing is it's so powerful. It's so deep. And the skill that she has, it was just incredible to watch how precise she was in leading people to these places that we don't want to go.
Yeah.
So at one point she had me, after I'd screamed and yelled at my dad and, all of this stuff, she had the person playing my dad hold me like a little child. And now I'm, in his lap looking up at him like a little baby. And which is quite an experience after discharging all of this energy. Yeah. And suddenly I just start sobbing.
Wow.
Like crying like crazy.
Wow.
And then I sit up and I say, he never saw me play. Yeah. I play hard for him. And I was known among my teammates. I was crazy. Like I played like a fucking animal, right? Like on 10 all the time. Pickup game in Culver City, 2:00 on a Thursday afternoon. It was the NHL finals for me. You know what I mean? I just couldn't turn it off. And so here it was. He'd never seen me play. I play hard for him. I had no conscious memory that he hadn't seen me play. I didn't know that. It was obviously so painful, I disassociated from it.
Wow.
And so at that moment, I'm like, okay, so the reason that I play hockey hard, the reason I play at all is to win the love of my father. I play hard for him. What else am I doing to win the love of my father? Like, is my whole career here in Hollywood on some level to get his attention, to win his love? And everything was up in the air in that moment. But I couldn't believe the depth of the pain that was there, and the longing to be seen and recognized by him. And that's the thing that stays with me, and that I try to talk to about my clients, who are now at this point mostly men. It's like, you vastly underestimate how much you long for your father's approval, whether he was there or not. Wow. Like, we are built to please the Father.
Right.
And when we don't get that, there is like an empty void inside us. And so very often we will go out in the world to achieve things, in order to prove that we are worthy of the love of the Father. And which on some level is great. I mean, I did a whole interview with Andrew Tate. He's like, yeah, that's exactly true. And look at me, everything's fucking great. Like it worked. I was like, okay, yeah, no, it's true. And, you know, you're in a lot of trouble. And maybe if you got a little bit deeper into your pain, things might even out a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, it's so like the first thing I was thinking as you were saying this is, it's almost like a sacred duty to go into this work if you want to actually improve the generations that will come after you, whether they be your children or just anyone that finds you influential in whatever domain. Like doing this work actually makes you show up better. So I know it's kind of like a meta thought about it, but like, is that what you were just describing? Like, is that the pathway into the shadow? Then it needs to be done in these group settings. You're almost reenacting, you're not reenacting, but you're like emotionally reenacting. I mean, what would you describe? What was the?
Yeah, it is a psychodrama. You're being
psychodrama. Yeah, that was the term used.
So that is a very powerful thing. It
sounds like an important tool.
Yeah, pick somebody in the room to play your father, right? Wow. And then stand across from him, and we have different tools like we have a big foam block and a bataka, and the reason, you know, it looks a little weird, but once you're doing it, you realize it's like once you start hitting something, it releases energy, and more truth comes out, and more the intensity of the feeling comes out. So if I'm just going to start yelling at you, you're my dad, I'm like, fuck you, motherfucker. But if I start hitting something and saying it takes on a whole new energy in life, and you feel actually how intense it really is. So, you know, we use different tools like that because, you know, it is held in our bodies, right? Like you can look at somebody's body and you can see where they're armored, you know, where they're holding. And so talk therapy is useful in you know, understanding what I call like the math of the problem. Like this happened to me and I reacted in this way, and now, you know, it's causing me to have this you know, play out of my life in this way. Yeah. But to get to the actual feelings, like the core feelings of pain and fear and rage, you know, and past the shame that we have about feeling them. And then on the other side of that, to get to the need, the longing, right? Like if I would longed for my father and my dad wasn't around, I cut off from that longing, and I never want to feel that longing again. Right. And so it's like, I have to be willing to feel how much I long for my father. I mean, the closing of almost all of these role plays, when the person really goes there, it usually ends with like, I needed you. Wow. Like that's the most vulnerable place. And that's like, when that happens, it's like everybody just kind of breaks down because we all like, we needed our daddy.
Always men towards the father. And is it women towards the mother too?
No, it's women towards the father as well. Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. The archetype, you know, it's not 100%, but you know, in general, the mother is usually very close. So it's like, get the fuck off me. Yeah. Yeah. That's usually the energy. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be enmeshed with you anymore. Right. And there's a longing for the father. And so I really try to let the men that I'm working with know, especially if they have children, you have no idea how much your kids are longing for you. Wow. How much your presence means to them. And, you know, just being there, like just being there, looking at them, like if they can feel you, that's the whole thing. And so, how do we go there? I mean, breath work is a great way to do it because again, it bypasses the conscious mind and gets you right into the feelings, and you can have powerful experiences like sobbing or raging, and you don't even necessarily know what it's about. You don't need to know what it's about. You don't have to have a memory attached to it. It's just like to let the body release because it's all there in the body. And so obviously I'm biased. I'm a big believer in somatic therapy, but it's done wonders for me, and you know, but everybody's got to kind of find their own way in a way that works for them, because the work that I do is pretty fucking intense. For sure. And it's definitely not for everybody.
Forget multivitamins and other supplements. Animal organs are the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. You can get 100 times more nutrients from organs than you can from muscle meats. But the problem with eating organs is that they are difficult to find in stores, they are difficult to prepare, and even when they are prepared well, they often don't taste great. Thankfully, Heart and Soil Supplements has made consuming organ meats so much easier by providing powderized organs in capsule form. Organ meats include everything your body needs to thrive: vitamins, minerals, peptides, proteins, and growth factors. This is why organ meats were the most prized foods for our ancestors. Fortunately for us, Heart and Soil makes these treasured foods easily accessible. So go to heartandsoil.co today and use discount code BREEDLOVE to get started on your journey to optimal health and vitality. Again, that's heartandsoil.co, discount code BREEDLOVE. Have you ever wanted to start a business in the Bitcoin space? If so, then the Wolf Startup Accelerator could be for you. Wolf is the first startup accelerator dedicated exclusively to businesses developing in the Bitcoin Lightning Network. 4 times each year, Wolf brings teams from around the world to New York City to work with like-minded entrepreneurs, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with Bitcoin and Lightning. The program is designed to help early-stage companies achieve product-market fit, develop their brand, secure early-stage funding, and grow businesses that fuel the global adoption of Bitcoin. Go to wolfnyc.com to learn more or apply today. Again, that's Wolf, WOLF, NYC.com. I have done the holotropic breath work, I don't know, probably almost 10 times, like maybe 8 times. And yeah, I don't even know what to call it, honestly. I felt like it was a deeply crying, like crying in here, like, but it felt so good at the same time. I was like releasing, stored energy or emotion that I had no explanation for. There's no label or story. I wasn't like, I don't know. You're kind of in this like meditative place, but but I'm like joyously laughing and crying, the hardest I've ever cried at the same time. It's some strange experience like that, but it feels amazing. It's euphoric almost. Yeah. And I did feel lighter afterwards, like just spiritually lighter, not so much physically lighter, but spiritually lighter, like something had been released. And so we don't know, like we don't, again, energy, frequency, vibration, the body keeps score, all these things. Yeah. Like we don't know how deeply our tissues and our waters that store these memories of the experiences that compose us. And that's probably what we call the spiritual, right? When it gets the pattern that's so deep, you can't even see the interconnections. Like that's the spiritual. And it's amazing that you can access those levels of consciousness just through rhythmic breathing. Yeah. And I had a facilitator, obviously, that I told you about. She's guiding me. Yeah. And sort of occasionally applying Reiki touch and then also saying provocative things about what she knew about me in my childhood and whatnot. All of that was very... I've had the release both without that and with that, but both times it's been profound, profound, almost like stronger than psychedelic experiences, although much shorter. Yeah, no, I mean, the holotropic breath work it's super powerful. I mean, I use that in my workshops. There's always one afternoon or morning where we do that because exactly what you said, it pulls you out of the narrative. Mm-hmm. And the mind, the mind is so tricky, right? The mind wants to attach to a story. The mind is constantly wanting to make sense of something. Yeah. Because once it attaches meaning or makes sense, there's safety that's created. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, what is healing? Healing is really the hero's journey, right? Like you have to let go of the known world and enter into the unknown world. Yes. And but none of us want to do that. I mean, that's, psychedelics are the second you drink the ayahuasca or eat the mushroom, like you are now going into the unknown and you have to learn to tolerate that. And there is a kind of, it is a death and rebirth. Mm-hmm. Some old part of you dies or some identity part of you dies that we're very attached to. And it's not easy to let go of this stuff because it's all we know. Yeah. And you're very committed to it. We rationalize the behavior and what we think, and it makes there's such a logic to it internally. And until we have a tremendous amount of courage, or we're faced with a kind of suffering that we just don't want to tolerate anymore, and we surrender, we probably are going to stay
stuck there. And I think that's what it was for me. I just realized like I said, I don't have control over my life. I'm continuing to suffer. I felt humiliated. Like, what the fuck is wrong? There's something wrong with me. Like, I don't like, but I guess I had some part of me that knew it was, I don't know, solvable, but that there was somehow I could get to it. And I guess the last thing I'd say about this, cause you were talking about this earlier, cause I thought, I mean, I've done as much work as anybody that I know, right? Like, and I've never stopped. And intense work, 4 years going deep with the ayahuasca and sweat lodges and vision quests and, 8 years somatic therapy. And I'm still fucking crazy. I was like, wait, when am I healed? When do I arrive?
It's not a destination, right?
It's not a destination. Yeah. I still get triggered with my wife. I still have these moments of frustration. I can say that I've gotten way, way better. Yeah. But also that I've developed a toolkit. Yeah. And a kind of an awareness that grounds me. So what I say to people is that I don't get lost anymore. Or if I do get lost, I don't have the same anxiety about it because I know that I have a map and I can find my way home. Or I can call somebody up and give me some reflection. So I've created some internal structure that gives me comfort. So even when I'm in a fight with my wife and we're both kind of gone, I know we're going to resolve it. Like there's, I'm like, I can feel some part of my brain is like, this is what this is about. You have some shit here. This is your pain. You don't want to deal with it right now. It may take you a couple hours to come back to, homeostasis and be able to like connect with that. But there's comfort in that. And then it's just a self-forgiveness and an acceptance of your humanity. This is what it means to be human.
For sure. Dude, absolutely. My wife and I, so I mentioned at some point, radical truth commitment kind of early on. And then at some point we made a commitment that we always come to resolutions. And there's a nice thing to that, like just... Because the feminine, sometimes they shift into this realm where they just use words way differently than the masculine, or it could just be more of an individual thing. But like, there's times where she'll just say things, and it's like, what?
Yeah, I think it's.
And I'm sure it goes the other way.
Feminine.
Yeah. And just that was actually really important to me. Like, it's a little piece of mental architecture I just go to. I'm like, oh, we're going through this, like, but we're going to come to resolution. So like, you now need to keep it cool. Keep it calm. Don't get engaged or heated. And that helps a lot. But it's never perfect. Like everything we've already said, right? Like it's been with us since the beginning of the species or before the species. We have no idea. Yeah. You use the word courage. And I feel like we have a pretty impoverished sense of that word broadly today. Like I think it's getting better, but what does Louis C.K. say about this? Something about, it's not that you're dying for your country, but it's you think that you're dying for your country. Like we have some of this blind courage to just ideological faith in militarism, for instance. And how do we make that definition of courage more prosperous and start to include things like shadow work and taking self-responsibility and evolving your conscious programming for future generations, these meta projects? It's like almost a chicken and the egg problem because, I don't know. How do you change the direction?
In terms of, I just want to make sure I understand your question, in terms of, trying to make this work, particularly to men, to demonstrate to them that it takes a lot of courage to do this shit.
To be like, I would say truly courage in the sense I would expect you would use the word. Yeah. What are the two senses of courage, right? A bit more of this kind of blind ideological faith, something like that. But they think, if you're doing something that's dangerous, then you're courageous. And in a sense you are. Like, sure, you're jumping off the cliff or going to war. Sure. Like, sure, that's all. There's some courage in there, but like these things actually for men specifically, it's like even harder because there's just less of us that do that shit or take it seriously. And so,
yeah, yes. Well, I mean, again, but you even having this conversation.
So we just need to keep actually
I think
doing
it's
it
courageous.
and talking about it.
Yeah. Cause there's a lot of judgment out there, and I think there's a lot of fear. And again, some of it is legitimate, right?
Sure.
Because you see some of the stuff that's out there and it's not very good. And there's a lot of bad therapists and there's a lot of bad programs and there's a lot of LARPing around it. But that doesn't discount ultimately the utility of and the necessity of what it is. And so, for me, I just think like all the stuff that I've done, like nothing has required more courage than all of this work that I've done because why? Because I was fucking terrified every time, in terror, scared shitless.
Every time, every session, when
I first started going to this particular kind of therapy, I would miss sessions all the time. And I'm not a person who misses appointments. I get a call like, where are you? I completely disassociated.
Wow.
Because I was so scared to show up. But then once I would, got into it and felt a little bit of confidence, I saw the utility of it and I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. And so that allowed me to confront my fear, but all of it was terrifying. I mean, I was confronting the deepest parts of myself, like going into pain that I thought would kill me and allowing the shame that I felt to be witnessed. That's why I think group work is so dynamic, because you're being witnessed by a group of people, and there's something about that that is both terrifying but also liberating, because the group of people essentially serves as the world, and it's just me and you, that's one thing, because the therapist is, they're being paid to be kind and understanding, but a random group of
makes it real.
20 people. Yeah. It's like, and they're going to all react differently to what it is they're seeing. And there's also going to be a lot of projection that they're going to have onto you. But now you're in the world, like you're in the reality of it, which I think is really powerful. But there's something about, going all the way. And the other thing I say is, like, you need other people to go there, because I had this belief that my rage, I'm sure you might feel this way, if you let your rage out all the way, like you burn down a city block, whatever.
Yeah. It's like it is that, but it also feels like a toddler, he's like,
right. It's a tantrum.
Another, yes, basically.
Yeah. But my belief was I can't be contained.
Yeah.
And that's a specific kind of defense.
Yeah, I know. I can relate to that. Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm not going to go there, because if I go there, like, I'm not going to be able to be held, and I'm just going to completely lose control. But the truth is, you can be held. Like, you get a group of like men around you, 10, 15. I mean, you'd need some strong guys, but they could handle you, and you could go there.
Yeah.
And go to the limit of what that is. And then what would happen is you see that there's something actually underneath it. Like, what is that rage protecting? Well, I promise you it's protecting something that is extraordinarily painful.
Right. Relation to the father, probably at the bottom.
Possibly. Yeah. That pain, that longing of like, where the fuck was dad? And I'm alone with mom, and mom is like unstable, and now I'm on my own. I have to do this all on my own. Nobody's helping me make sense of this, and all of these images get formed, and defenses develop around it. And of course then relationship is going to be fucking hard.
Yeah, dude. I'm a little like beat up by it, honestly. Like, it's kind of, I don't want to say I'm happy, deeply, truly happy that there are these techniques and schools of thought and science. I don't know what all the package is, but that art, that discipline It's very helpful. But then as you make the unconscious conscious, it's a little bit bleak in a way. Like we have a lot to deal with. Like I led a men's retreat in Mexico, and after one of our holotropic breathworks, actually, one of my realizations was like, I can not even control myself fully what I eat, throughout the day, and I try to often diet pretty strictly, and I do often, but then sometimes you just, you're eating carbs or whatever the thing that bother you. Like I find myself doing that often. I'm like, man, that's such a basic thing. And I don't have full self-control even in that basic thing.
Yeah.
So like dealing with all these other complex things is like, this is quite the task. It's quite the tall order.
Yeah. Self-mastery is not an easy thing.
Yeah. The humility is, well, what is it? Just the magnitude of the problem in a way is humbling, I guess. I don't want, again, it sounds bleak. It's like, it's all just one big problem, but there's also so much opportunity and beautiful things, but we have a lot of shadow to work through, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
No, I relate. I remember I had a friend that I was going through this with, and he's like, why do we ever start this? I just would, it's like kind of the red pill and the blue pill. Why I should have just took the fucking blue pill and never gotten.
There it is.
Because it's all, I have to go now. I have to go all the way down.
Right.
And I don't want to go all the way down, and it's too much. And what I guess what I would say to you is that I think that's just like, I don't think that's true, what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think it's an image that you have in your mind, perhaps.
Okay.
And that might be part of the defense. Like that's saying, it's too much. It's like, I'm overwhelmed by it. You know what I mean? If it could be. Yeah. It could be. That's just this is what comes up for me.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
It feels like, it feels like it's a matter of magnitude. Just and like I'm like trying to look at it rationally or whatever the thing is. But then I've also noticed, I think my escape into words and symbolism is part of that. You're kind of like moving away from that darkness, like we talked about earlier, as something to launch. Because it is very central to my career, right? I'm a professional nerd, and I've kind of like hyper nerd, just reading a lot of books for a long time, pretty aggressively. And like, why do I do that? Where did that motivation come from?
Right.
And like I tell myself, it's like, you're curious. You're trying to learn about the world. You're philosophically inclined, whatever. But in reality, I don't know.
What you're suggesting is some kind of adaptation, defense against something.
Well, I guess I'm just going back to the whole thing about a shadow propelling you in certain extreme directions. And I'm going to make sense.
Maybe I'm going to make sense of the world. I'm going to understand the world. If I understand the world, then I have some sense of control, and then I can feel safe.
There it is.
Something like that.
Yeah. No, honestly, that lands pretty well. But it is also useful to read a lot. And there's all kinds of opinions on it. Actually, some guys think it softens you up and all this stuff.
Reading?
I think if it's taken too far, right, you can become, I don't know. I just know some of these like toxic Bitcoin maxis that are like, you can't read that much. You got to be doing other stuff. But
well, I think the way I see it is the defense will always co-opt your essence.
Oh, say that again.
The defense will use your essence.
Okay.
So there is a part of your essence that wants to learn, that is curious, that loves to play with ideas. I think that's in your essence, and it would make sense that the defense would use that part of you in service of not wanting to feel or stay in control, whatever it is.
Do you know what my immediate thought is as you say that? Is like this kind of deeply, not symbolic, but I looked at that as like a fractal reflection of what the state is to the market. Like the defense is co-opting the essence, right? The essence is the productive, generative free market, and then the state is defense, literally co-opting it. And so I wonder if that was like my defense. Was that my defense mechanism, or was that like an actual insight about how nature works?
It could be both. Could be both. I mean, within this
is the hardest thing about being human, by the way. Is like you don't know if you're onto something or bullshitting yourself completely.
That's right. Yeah. So, well, I think you're on. I think you're onto something. Our greatest gifts come from our defense. So I had a similar situation to you. My mother was an alcoholic, and I'm a different kind of person than you, but I became very good at like assessing energy. Like I could read people very well.
I have that.
And so it serves me very well in the profession that I'm in, And when I was an actor, I had to be a good boy for my mother. I knew how to read her moods and keep her kind of happy.
Yeah.
Okay. I did that. Why did I do that? So that I could feel safe. So I'm going to take care of mom.
Yeah.
And if mom is happy and mom is grounded, then I feel safe. And then when I went to Hollywood, I just was on show after show after show where I was the guy on a woman's show who was like the nice guy kind of taking care of the woman. I practiced this and mastered it in my childhood. And then did it as a career.
Wow.
And that's when I remember waking up to that because I had all this success. I was killing it.
Wow.
But I was fucking filled with resentment and I couldn't figure out why. And I realized that's why, because I'm not myself. I'm just playing out my shit with my mother over and over again. And I fucking hate this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what did that do to you? Like career? I mean, how did you? Well, you have the realization, but you can't just.
I went to the work. Like I went to that workshop that I described. This 5-day. The first one, and it all came. All my mother stuff. I got to it.
Wow.
And then immediately I knew that my career was. I don't want to say it was a fraud because it wasn't a fraud because I was a good actor and I enjoyed it. And there was the creativity of it and climbing the mountain of Hollywood was exciting. Right. But there was some way that it wasn't, I wasn't all the way there. I wasn't integrated in it. It wasn't ultimately fulfilling. And I knew that was the beginning of the end. I didn't know what I was going to do about it.
Interesting.
But I knew like, I can't do this anymore.
Wow. Is it the like impurity of the motivation?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah. And that's Chase said really well in that podcast I listened to, there was an open loop that I was trying to close. Right? Like the stuff with my mother, it was unresolved. Now I'm going out in the world and I'm trying to close this loop in Hollywood. I'm going to be seen. I'm going to get all these women to love me. But of course, they don't actually see me, right? I'm just this
You're
cute
labeled.
guy. I'm labeled.
You're an actor.
And nobody really cares about me. It's the exact same experience I had as a child. I recreated it. And was left with the same frustration and pain. But it took me, a long time to come to terms with that. And I was doing that also in my personal relationships. And that's why I really went down the rabbit hole of this therapy, because I was just like, I could get the fucking bottom of this. Because otherwise, like I've got everything that I want. I've got a gorgeous girlfriend. I've got this great house in Studio City. I'm on a TV show. I'm doing movies and I want to fucking kill everybody.
Wow. Damn, that is so fucking raw. And then is this another conundrum? Like, because you do great work, right? And everyone likes you and you're good at it. And it's like, well, shit, that was a great outcome. But if it's motivated, once you make that unconscious conscious, somehow it demotivated you to want to do that anymore. Like, I guess what was the experience of it? It's just like, I'm literally carrying out an unconscious pattern. Yeah.
I mean, not the whole thing was a lie. Sure. But there was an aspect of it that was not in the deepest level of truth and authenticity, which nobody around me cared. It was the feeling that existed inside me. And I wanted to be in something real and truthful and honest. And that work gave me a place to go do that. Like, now I'm in a room and I can go anywhere and I can get to the truth of what's going on inside me. I can express myself fully. That's why I was so attracted to it. That was what I was looking for in the acting that I couldn't find. I mean, it exists, but you're making, when I got to Hollywood, I realized very quickly, especially, working on the Warner Brothers lot, it's just a big lot of studios. Yeah. And I'm like, this is a factory for churning out entertainment product. And I'm the cute guy, stand on your mark.
The raw material.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was like, oh, fuck. I mean, I'm making good money. Yeah. And I have a lot of social status, but this isn't really why I signed up for this.
That's so interesting. And then I would guess that the work you're doing now gives you that level of fulfillment that you were seeking even in acting, right? That you were almost... You kind of went for the shiny object, but eventually found the nutritious food, something like that.
Yeah. I think I'm always searching for deeper levels of truth. So I get to a place where I'm satisfied. And then, you climb the mountain, you stand at the top of it for 10 minutes and then you look for the next mountain to climb. You're like, that mountain wasn't that great. There's got to be another one. There's some part of me, maybe that is part of the neurotic quality I have, or maybe it's just part of my essence. But yeah, I feel more fulfilled in this work. I feel in my gift.
Yeah.
I feel like and it feels like the time is right. Like that I was pulled into this for whatever reason. Yeah. I don't know why. Why are we drawn to the things we're drawn to? I don't know. But suddenly I wanted to go all the way into this. And because I have a little, I'm a little bro, right? Like I used to be a hockey player. I love the gym. For sure. I can relate to the bros. And the bros need therapy.
Bros need therapy.
And I'm just the man for the job, because I'm not like bookworm, nerdy therapist type, and I can speak the language. I know what it is.
For sure.
So that it feels like I'm where I'm supposed to be, and the skills that I have are useful. And I think ultimately that's what we want. We just want to feel useful.
For sure. For sure. I think that's a really important message, especially for young men to hear, actually.
Yeah.
That because you had the dream, right?
Yeah.
Highly paid actor in Hollywood. Like that's everyone's number one career choice. Maybe not everyone's, but damn near it. Right. And so you were there, but still the fulfillment wasn't there. It's easy to think it's the hedonic treadmill thing, right? You think you get the car, the girlfriend, the job, you'll be happy. And it's like never the case.
Yeah.
All the way to the top.
Yeah. All the way.
And I wish someone had really convinced me of that at a younger age, because you do kind of chase that shiny rabbit.
But I don't know. I think you have to find out for yourself.
You got to find out for yourself. Yeah.
I think you just got to go through it. I mean, I can imagine if I had a son, or, I work with a lot of young men.
Yeah.
And they, got guys who are doing very well and made a lot of money at a young age. And they're like, I got everything that I wanted. Now what? I'm like, well, you're 24. Let me give you some perspective, but you got to go through it, bro. You got to figure, like you're 24, like you're going to be competing. Try to minimize your illusions.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you're coming to me, something's amiss.
It's like being an adult teenager, basically. Yeah. Your 20s.
Yeah. I can't imagine what it must be like for them. But there's life cycles. We just have to go through what we have to go through, and you try to do as little damage as possible. I think some people are more prone to being grounded. I think the environment, like how you grow up, if you have, solid parenting and all of that, I think that does have a real impact. I think that's a real thing. I think there's some people that are less neurotic or less apt to act out than others. But then there's people like me and maybe a little bit like you who we just had to find out the hard way.
Well, definitely have run my head into several walls over the years. So I'm definitely one of those guys. Would you rather have 1 Bitcoin today or 2 Bitcoin a few years from now? Bitcoin mining is a tried and true strategy for accumulating Bitcoin. Over a 2 to 4 year time frame, successful miners have consistently accumulated more Bitcoin than they otherwise would with a traditional dollar cost average strategy. Blockware mining as a service enables you to start mining Bitcoin from your laptop. Blockware handles everything from securing the miners to sourcing low-cost power to configuring the mining pool. They do it all. Plus, with Blockware's one-of-a-kind mining marketplace, you can buy and sell live Bitcoin miners with just a few keystrokes. In this marketplace, buyers get to purchase live machines at vetted facilities, enabling them to mine with zero lead time. And sellers get the opportunity to liquidate their machines and hosting contracts at will. This means you can mine Bitcoin with zero long-term commitment and high liquidity on your mining rigs. Blockware will even cover your energy bill for 1 week per mining rig when you sign up at mining.blockwaresolutions.com/breedlove. Again, that's 1 free week of Bitcoin mining at mining.blockwaresolutions.com/breedlove. And on top of this offer, you can also use code BREEDLOVE to get $100 off your first mining rig with Blockware Solutions. Bitcoin custody is evolving. Both self-custody and single third-party custody come with significant risk and trade-offs. Onramp is pioneering a new standard, multi-institution custody. which eliminates single points of failure, adding fault tolerance and redundancy to your setup. Onramp secures your Bitcoin in a segregated cold storage multi-key vault guarded by 3 independent institutional-grade custodians, none of which have unilateral control over your keys. Your funds are fully auditable on-chain, cannot be rehypothecated, and can only move or be withdrawn at your explicit direction. Multi-institution custody removes the technical, mental, and physical burdens of private key management, providing unparalleled peace of mind for you and your loved ones. Bitcoin is money, and as the price continues to appreciate, Onramp helps you seamlessly tap into financial services like trading, inheritance, insurance, loans, IRAs, and more, all without compromising on security or accessibility. Schedule a consultation with the Onramp team to learn more at onrampbitcoin.com/breedlove. Again, that's onrampbitcoin.com/breedlove.
When did you know that you were the kind of person that could have an impact? Like, when did you realize that about yourself?
I would say it's an ongoing realization. I didn't know it was COVID that really, well, it was Bitcoin and then COVID, which inspired me to start doing this.
Yeah.
And other people had suggested a couple of times that like I should talk more. And then when I started appearing on podcasts, those became popular. So eventually I launched one.
Were you surprised when that happened? When you went on podcasts and people were...
Yeah, actually, because we do really super rabbit hole nerdy stuff. And so I don't know what the audience for that is. Like you see some channels online, right? Like, you know, probably a Jordan Peterson that's like not current Jordan Peterson, but like old esoteric lectures where he's talking about the Bible for multiple hours. Like how many people really, I mean, that's the best version of all of that. There's a long tail basically.
Yeah.
And so, but I was genuinely philosophically fascinated with the notion of money for a long time. And it's more than just money. It's like language and the structure of reality and all these things, as you know, you get into as we get going, right? You're like often coming to definitions or etymology, and it's just fun. That's genuinely fun for me in conversation prior to doing this. But I didn't know there was like, you know, you don't interact with that many people like that in the world. I mean, depending where you're at, actually, as I moved to LA, there's more of them, you know, and whatnot. But, yeah, I guess the original was like, I put out some writing and some tweets that were very influential on Bitcoin. And then this show has definitely increased that mission. You know, like I do genuinely want to be impactful. I hope that people will take our conversation to heart. You know, I almost wanted to say seriously, but it's like not too seriously. You know, you got to be playful and have fun with it. Yeah. But it's a real thing. And so, yeah, I keep asking myself that question, like, how do we do that? But then you're right. It's like, you got to be the change you want to see in the world. And I don't know, that's an ongoing project, right? Like I'm just trying to do my own work and walk the right path and be a good man and all of those things. But, you know, we've got a lot of work to do like everyone else.
Right.
So I don't know. Here we are, you know.
No, I understand. Are you a role model? Do you think of yourself that way?
I think role models are extremely important, and I don't think they even have to be. This is why I talk about Christ a lot on the show. It's if you've never read Rene Girard, if you read just the first 10 pages of his book, I See Satan Fall Like Lightning, it's really interesting about mythology and Christ and this imitation thing. And literally it's not even actually Rene's writing. It's a guy writing an intro to his book.
Oh.
But he's like summarized it so well in 10 pages that I always point people to that. And it's like, you just read that and you'll like go, whoa. I'm a subscriber to mimetic theory, basically, which is like humans are highly imitative. So I do seek to become imitation worthy. But like I'm trying to do the right things, right?
Interesting. I want to become worthy of imitation. That's really interesting.
But it's trying to channel Christ in a way, you know? It's like you're trying to walk in his footsteps in the hopes that other people will also walk in his footsteps. Because if everyone actually walked in those footsteps, which I could summarize as universal respect for life, liberty, and property. You actually had that in the world. A world defined purely by consent. And not whatsoever by coercion. Then you would actually have heaven on earth. That's metaphorical speech, but you would have the best possible outcomes. Yeah. So
I believe that.
That's what I'm like subscribed to currently, but it's again.
Well, I was deeply impacted by the interviews, things when I really, started to understand. Cause I was, I told you I had this friend, he called me up, it's like buy Bitcoin. I was like, okay. So I, bought a few Bitcoin, but I didn't really know anything about it. And then, people started talking about it. It was up and down. I was like, this is all, I don't know. And then I started to try to understand it. And he would explain it to me, but, and I got it, but there was something about like when you explain it, I guess this is, a lot of people feel this way with you.
Because I'm a bro like you.
Exactly.
Yeah, can bro
exactly.
Out on it.
Yeah. Like there was just, I don't know, something about your languaging but also there was a conviction that you had about it that's attractive. Like, because it's not just, this is an interesting new technology. It's like, no, this reveals the corruption of the current system. And then you took it even further into the realm of like good and evil and natural law and all of these deep places. And it made, all of that made sense to me. And it's what a time to be living in.
For sure. When people get fulfillment from your work, like you get it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the peak. So thank you for that. But I actually tweeted this about a week ago. It's funny you bring it up. But like it's one thing to go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And again, I'm the guy that will just read like a motherfucker, right? Like as soon as I got into Bitcoin, I was tearing it up I was reading a lot, like 6 hours a day, like for a long time, many hundreds of pages a day, like really tearing it up. All Nick Szabo's old work, all about Bitcoin being time. And there's a lot of really good philosophical pieces from like 2014 and prior era. And so I was just voraciously going down the rabbit hole and coming to what I thought was a very profound innovation, including reading the Bitcoin Standard, like the weekend it came out, which if you haven't read that yet, that's obviously it's the Bible of Bitcoin up until this point. But that also, when you go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, it's like the humility thing. Cause you're like, oh shit, what do I really know? I've been programmed to believe all these other things for so long. And you start to get into all the things. I mean, it's led me to this work, frankly. So like, I wasn't maybe all that way. I'm still not all that far down, but it takes you towards the humility path.
That's interesting.
And that leads you to this type of work, for me at least. And I've seen it in others as well. But so at the same time, you're like, well, I think I see something here, but am I sure I see something? Like, you don't know what's going on. And then when I actually meet other Bitcoiners, like dyed in the wool, bleeding orange Bitcoiners, they're all these crazy, super smart, almost exclusively entrepreneurial, like hyper entrepreneurial, and generally like good people. I mean, there's a lot of shitheads and all, like whatever, there's people, but there's like a lot of good, hardworking, really smart people. And they've all taken their own kind of pathway to Bitcoin through different schools of thought, right? Like a Safety comes at it from Austrian economics, other people come at it from computer science, et cetera. But they're all coming to the same conclusion. And actually I left out the most important thing. The other thing about Bitcoiners is that we're highly disagreeable. Like when I take the Big 5 personality test, I have a 1% agreeableness.
Yeah.
So I'm the most disagreeable guy in the room, basically.
Right.
All Bitcoiners score really low. They showed a Myers-Briggs thing, actually. Most of us are INTJ.
Yeah.
And I am INTJ. So like highly disagreeable INTJ. When you see that many disagreeable people coming into agreement about one thing, the level of your conviction skyrockets, basically.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, fuck. If this is real, and this is a technological paradigm we're in, right? It's all digital technology dominated, and that's only going to expand exponentially so far as we can tell.
Yeah.
Here are the smartest, hardest working, most entrepreneurial people in that domain on earth. And they're also highly disagreeable, yet they're all in agreement about this. And I also came to this conclusion sort of, I say on my own, but you're obviously studying the work of others, basically. You're choosing your influences.
Yeah.
You know, using rationality to deal with their arguments and whatnot, but ultimately choosing what you read and who you interact with and whose opinion you're consuming.
Yeah.
And that gave me that super deep conviction.
And then through your own filter, you're interpreting through your own lens and through your own language.
Yes.
And through, I guess, your own, because you have which I don't feel from all Bitcoiners, like there is a deep philosophy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's kind of to be seen. Like I've witnessed it in my own life and in the lives of other Bitcoiners that kind of take its principles seriously, like radical truth, radical responsibility, proof of work, radical responsibility. Did I already say that one? Transparency, even, but also privacy. There's other aspects. It's not just, you just don't lay everything out. Privacy is also part of freedom, human freedom. People that really internalize. A lot of people come to religion, actually. They find themselves coming back to religion, which is interesting. It's like, what? This like honest money, honest code of human interaction leads you to these wisdom traditions. And so, all of that, I don't know. We'll see, right? It's a humanitarian movement of some kind. How big does it get? Well, to be seen, but.
Well, it's interesting because I was driving over here. I was trying to think of like, what's the frame for the conversation? Because, I'm coming from where I'm coming from and you're coming from where you're coming from. But I don't want to search for something, but there is like some search for truth in what I'm doing, like trying to go into this thing all the way into the psyche and get to some deep truth for the purpose of liberation, which will also ultimately lead to more human flourishing and more love, and more fairness and more awareness and less hatred. And I feel that also in your work, and it's a strange thing because I talk about Bitcoin with people, and I'm always like, you got to get in, you got to understand it because there's something deeper in there that I can't articulate, but I can feel that there's some truth that's being revealed through the technology and what it represents. It's changed my consciousness, and in a way that I can't even really articulate yet, but it definitely has. And so, I don't know. So in that sense, like I feel like something's happening in the world, and all of these people are in these different nodes, working on the problem from all these different perspectives, but maybe at the center, it's just one thing. Yeah,
dude, it's the fractal is what comes to mind again. It's like people are working at this at the individual level, but the individual, let's say the person level, as I clarified earlier, but that's not enough necessarily. You also need sort of the incentive level to also be uncorrupted, such that you don't. Here's one of the most complex areas of Bitcoin, and this is one where, admittedly, I would say it's controversial. It's controversial to hold this opinion, maybe. And this is something that definitely remains to be seen with Bitcoin. But this idea of lowering the profitability of coercion, there has been some literature on this, like they call it the economics of force or violence, and you could open, I always talk about the book, The Sovereign Individual, but if you go into the bibliography of that book, there's a lot of literature there that's on that topic. It's not expansive, but like there's something there. And they've talked about how when the economics of force projection and defense against force projection change, that actually is the primary determinant in how society is shaped and organized. Yeah. And it kind of makes sense because things ground out in physical force. Right? If you can exert physical force very cheaply and easily and use that to extract from people, then you get these big centralized empires.
That's right.
But if defense goes way up and becomes cheap and effective, then you get much more decentralization because it's harder to project that tyrannical force, basically. And so Bitcoin is this thing that radically decreases the cost of defending your purchasing power, like to almost like very, very low, right? You can store billions on your brain, or you can put it in multi-sig wallets and spend, you can move the whole billion for like 50 cents or $5, depending on demand for block space. Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
It's crazy.
It's really crazy. And so but I would say that's controversial in the sense that some people say it's not going to change human nature that much. But I'm a little bit more of the opinion I like that quote that human nature is like water. It takes the shape of its container. So I see our consciousness and our level of ethicality and culture evolves as our technological paradigms and economic abundance expand. Almost like this is like another software luxury we're creating in our own minds over time when we don't have to fight over every sandwich kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I see Bitcoin as another big step in that direction. But I don't know, that opinion is maybe not for everyone, but
I like it. It feels, I don't know, at some level it feels true. I mean, I've heard you say that, it'll be the end of the nation state in some way. You're not the only one saying that. People are saying that not even necessarily in relationship to Bitcoin, just technology in general. Yes. But there's something that I don't know why that just feels true to me. It feels like that was where like something decentral, just the concept of decentralization.
Yes. Yeah.
That in and of itself. Like when I understood that, I was like, no, that's better. And then, of also the pushback is that, and my buddy Haralabos, that's what he said. It's like, people don't want to be sovereign. People don't really want to be free. They want to continue to be ruled. And disagreeable people like yourself, and I'm also one.
I figured that out.
I don't want anyone ruling me. But there's a lot of people that are very agreeable.
Yes.
And so it's like, that's where I get stuck. It's like my own vision of the world versus, human nature. And
absolutely.
But maybe, I don't know, maybe something will change.
There's a bet on like the malleability of humans in a way, right? Like I think an uncontroversial Bitcoiner perspective is that material incentives really matter. Like they actually can shape the trajectory of your life, right? Hoppe makes a lot of these arguments in his books, like A Theory on Socialism and Capitalism. He goes into how the rate at which private property can be violated is the rate you'll see culture degrade, basically.
Interesting.
And it's not an exact science. It's kind of, praxeology is an exact science. It's deduced from first principles, but that particular opinion, he has to draw on empirical data, right? It's not a theorem necessarily, it's an observation, but I think it's pretty convincing. When the Berlin Wall was collapsing, which way were people running? It's like, if you know the answer to that question, it's like, people love freedom and private property. Yeah. No shit.
Yeah.
And when you implement it really well, you get these economic booms, right? Yeah. We have the early US, you have early Hong Kong. Like there's a lot of examples.
Interesting.
That freedom is highly prosperous. It leads, freedom is the father of prosperity, basically. But then with freedom comes prosperity, comes abundance, comes decadence. Right. And then people start to prey on the decadence and, to violate the private property of others. And so you get, what did you say earlier? That the defense co-ops the essence?
That's right.
So you get this, and the author, oh man, it's a great book. It's all of world history summarized in 100 pages. And he called this oscillation between centralization and decentralization, called it the systole and the diastole of human history, which is like the heartbeat. So like we've just been.
Yeah.
But then the sovereign individual thesis is like, if you get cost of defense up, then you actually drive decentralization, which is somewhat true, I think. Like we have pretty good private property in the United States, and it's equivalent to our level of decentralization as a constitutional republic, even though we've lost a lot of that. We still have these vestiges of decentralization that have been very useful. For instance, when people were crossing the southern border in Texas, and eventually Texas is like, fuck you. Sorry, there's that word again. When Texas stands up for itself, and 26 other states also stand up with them, the federal government backs off. Now, I don't know where that situation is today, but like in that moment, I was like, oh, that's a vestige of decentralization actually paying dividends for us.
Right.
So I think, again, Bitcoin is just talk about decentralization, like the possibility of the sovereign individual. Like that's, of course it's unprecedented, but you can be your own bank. You can be your own, not your own law. You're still going to enter into groups, but it's going to be more consensual and less coercive. And that's a pretty bright orange future.
Yeah. No, I'm inspired by it. Like I said, I mean, the way you talk about it is so interesting. Obviously I haven't studied the way you have, but it feels orienting somehow. Yeah. And feels really, good. And,
The other connection I wanted to draw, I think, because maybe the common thread here, the through line is your work is dissolving. You were saying earlier, right? Your identity is built up from your beliefs. So your identity structure is built up of beliefs over time.
That's right.
And this work and other forms, psychedelics too, things in that domain dissolve those structures to some extent, or can at least let you renovate them, I guess, maybe is a better metaphor here. And Bitcoin is also very dissolving to power structures.
That's right.
Right. It's more like the external, the macrocosmic reflection perhaps of that internal state, but they're both psychedelic in that way, and that they dissolve old power structures and paradigms and open up space for new ones.
Yeah. Well, that's what, why it's interesting, because I'm drawn to Bitcoin, and I'm drawn to this the transformational work, and you are too, and a lot of people are, and it is curious, but it's a kind of revolution, and breaking down to the old structures. I mean, that's exactly how I think about the work. It's like, you have a structure, you formed a structure in order to survive your childhood. It's largely unconscious. And you become aware of it when you start to experience certain frustrations in your life, when things that you want, you're unable to get, and you start to see those patterns, and then you go into the confrontation. And it's really the same, like on the individual level as it is on the structural level of the world. And I think it is all one thing in some way. And so it would make sense that that we would, like, as I said, different nodes would be approaching the problem in different ways, but that ultimately, it is all something. There's something that's emerging. This is my feeling. It's been my feeling for a long time. There's some new consciousness that's emerging that wants to break through. Yeah. And it's not something that we can completely comprehend, obviously, and we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side. And I don't believe that there's like necessarily a utopia. Sure. Just as I said, it's like you come to terms with the fact that you are human. You're going to continue to make mistakes, and you're going to continue to act out in some ways. And there's a kind of an acceptance of that. And maybe you have to accept that there's no utopia in human nature. Like, we're going to get to the new level, and there'll be another set of problems, and things will become corrupt. But that's just the evolutionary process. But it feels like, man, we are in the middle of something that's so interesting and so alive, and to be on the forefront of like breaking through. And I know that's like dramatic language, but the age of Aquarius, but this is how it feels, man.
I agree.
Well, you use, I've seen you use language like the end of the nation state. Those are bold statements.
I tweeted, I think, and I will stand by it, but I think I said something like, Bitcoin is the revolution in human consciousness we've all been waiting for, something like that. And but it's not, it is bidirectional. There is some awakening in the individual. People that don't give a shit about Bitcoin, right, are also kind of doing a lot of this work and working on their own power structures. And a lot of people have woken up since COVID, I think, right? It's like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I have some programming that I need to deprogram and reprogram. Right. So it's that simultaneous with the emergence of Bitcoin. It's kind of like top down, bottom up, same time, which Bitcoin even is a little strange. It is bottom up, but it's one thing. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of in between. It's strange in a lot of ways, but I guess, again, I'm subscribing to material incentives really mattering a lot. And then if we increase, I think the level of psychological sophistication we've developed over time is dependent on the accumulation of goods and capital and technologies. Like, we have to create the luxury of sitting around and philosophizing doing psychotherapy or psychodramas or whatever, or getting held by men and pretending they're our dad. Like you said, there wasn't no time for that in Texas when who was it?
The Comanches, the Texas Rangers.
So like, we do create this economic luxury and abundance to have freedom to do things like that. And so, what am I saying? I guess these things, they work in tandem, basically. It's to increase more human freedom, and flourishing gives us more of that leisure time to work on ourselves and evolve, basically. So I think we're kind of participants in our own evolution to some extent.
Yeah.
I don't like it, some people will use the theory of evolution as just like a, can't control it. It's all the things indifferent universe, all the things you were touching on earlier, but there is an element. It's neither objective nor subjective, right? There's selection pressures that are objective, but there's mate selection and choice in life in general that is subjective. And so we do participate.
It's interesting too that you alluded to this in one of your conversations that I watched. I mean, maybe this isn't totally right, but that it's brought you closer to God.
For sure.
Like to your faith, to a belief, a deeper belief in. I mean, I know God is a loaded word, and everybody defines it in their own ways.
Maybe not more loaded, but it's brought me to a disbelief in belief, actually. Like if you just define belief as the propositions you can fit between your ears, then I don't give a shit about your beliefs.
Right.
It's your actions that define you.
Right.
And so if you define belief as like all of this level of knowing, your heart, your gut, your soul, everything, that structure that animates your action, if that's what you mean by belief, then I agree with you.
Right.
But I think we've reduced it to just this, I
understand.
I'm a Republican, I'm a Christian, I'm a this, I'm a that. It's like, no one fucking, like it actually doesn't matter what back to the label.
Yeah.
Back to the label. It's just a label. It's not you, right? You're much more complex than that. And action is much more complex than that.
Yeah.
So by bringing me into the Austrian economics school and getting into like Mises and praxeology, the study of human action, I've become very focused on human action as the primary reality. And words and labels, although a necessary tool, like one of the most indispensable tools there is to map situations and all these things, once again, the map is not the territory. So then you're like, okay, well, what is the territory?
Yeah.
It's unmappable by language. It's unmappable even by mathematics, right? There's places mathematics can't go. All of that excess truth is what I would say the word for that which is beyond all words represents, which is God.
Yeah.
Right. And
the great mystery.
The great mystery. Yeah. The thing that can never be captured in words, and goes all the way back to the Platonic one, right? Like there's a lot of relation. That was what kind of they were getting to, is like, there's this principle of unity of all things, but it's beyond all.
Yeah.
It says something like, it's neither knower or known. It's the process that, this is where you get into like the Christian Trinity and all that too, because it's like Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
Reality is somehow relational, but they all three are God or participate in God, but are not God, because God is that word that's beyond all words.
That's right.
Or you get into beauty, goodness, and truth, which are like the philosophical eternals, and that also somehow is like close to God.
Yeah.
So I've just become, I don't know, I was a bit of a materialist atheist in my early 20s before getting into yoga and meditation. And so I've had this big swerve, and I would also credit Jordan Peterson here, like his lectures on the psychological significance of the Bible, still some of the best content I've ever listened to in my life.
He had a huge impact on me. And I actually and he gets criticized a lot for kind of dancing around certain definitions of God and faith and spirituality. But it's like, how can you define them clearly? Like he's trying to define something that's unknowable.
That's right.
And so I understand from the other side, it looks like he's evading.
Yeah.
But these are hard things to talk about.
For sure.
And it goes right to the foundation of like the fundamental nature of reality, which I don't think that most people are really willing to deal with. Because, the Sam Harrises of the world, it's like it goes back to what you said, not to say that Sam Harris is evil, but he seems pretty certain about a lot of things.
It's
a guy like that it's dangerous. Exactly. It's like, I want to move away from that certainty. And I'm drawn towards the man who's like throwing out ideas. This is a possibility. I realize I'm contradicting myself, but I'm some attempt to get to some attempt to express what is ultimately unknowable.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I'm still, I know Peterson is, whatever. I don't know what's going on, but I'll never not respect what he's up to and the courage that he's shown.
I agree. I really appreciate his early work, but I don't follow him much anymore. Like I think he's taken a turn that doesn't work for me, and it's okay.
It's okay.
I love, as you were saying that, I was reminded of Naval. He said something like, don't take yourself so seriously. You're just an ape with a plan. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And man, there is something clarifying and liberating in that as someone who does, you know, think seriously and talk seriously and does all this shit all the time. It's like at some point you just gotta like, I don't know what, just kind of set it all down and just be, and just like, you can't control. The Stoics say something like, you can only control your effort and your attitude. You know, there's no outcome that you can control. Like it's all, you're dealing with irreducible complexity day in and day out. Like the pure entropy of reality is like, that's our reality. We're dealing with it all the time. Now we've done amazing things to push it back, and like we've created culture and technology and all these things. However, it's like fighting the tide, right? Like the entropy's there and it's coming, and you need to accept it to like act responsibly and competently in the face of it. Yeah.
It's the one nice thing about getting older when I talk to, you know, younger guys, because nobody wants to get older.
Yeah.
And I certainly did. And especially when you're, you know, young and strong and virile, it's like, and you have that identity and, you know, you don't want to get old, but I'm, you know, about to turn 56, and it's definitely I'm slowed down, but man, spiritually, like the acceptance of myself and life, like all the things you were just saying, there's something that happens that is so beautiful and so good and so comforting. I mean, at least I got there. I don't want to say that everybody gets there, but that's available to you. And I don't think it's a thing that's available to you when you're younger. I think, you know, that we go in these stages, and I resisted it for a while, but I recently, for whatever reason, I've just allowed myself to be in that place. And it's like, there's you know, I'm a kind of, people see me as a wise man, right? Like I'm at that age, you know, I've got the gray beard, and if I grow it out, and
you're a graybeard.
I'm a graybeard, exactly. And I've done some things and I've lived a life. But you know, inside I feel kind of the same. But there is something that happens that it's, I guess I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't worry about getting old, man. It's fucking awesome.
That sounds fucking awesome, except for all of the things that come with it. Like I'm already going through the thing, but it's fine. It's like you learn to befriend them and adapt.
It's fine. Yeah. I walk now. I don't run.
Yeah.
You know, I still lift, but just like less hard. It's all good.
One of my highest health priorities is keeping my brain in top shape. To take care of my brain power, I do many things, such as striving to read, write, exercise, and meditate daily. One of the latest tools in my brain power toolkit is MindLab Pro. MindLab Pro is a nootropic supplement that is scientifically proven to enhance your brain power. When I take MindLab Pro, my mind feels like it has a better grip on the world, my thinking is more lucid, and the articulation of my speech is radically improved. MindLab Pro has been tested in rigorous, double-blind, placebo-controlled human trials and has been proven to enhance brain power for users in every age group. MindLab Pro is an advanced formulation of 11 nootropic ingredients and is backed by research from over 1,400 human trials conducted over the past 32 years. So if you're looking to enhance your brain power, MindLab Pro is an excellent solution. Go to mindlabpro.com/breedlove to start enhancing your brain power today. Again, that's mindlabpro.com/breedlove. Knowing when to buy Bitcoin can feel complicated, and knowing how much to buy can be overwhelming, and getting started can be a headache, but it doesn't have to be. That's exactly why I recommend Coinbits, because it solves these major blockers and it's the easiest way to buy Bitcoin. With Coinbits' Round Ups feature, you can automatically convert your spare change into Bitcoin while you shop. For example, when you buy a coffee for $3.50, the extra 50 cents is rounded up and it goes straight into Bitcoin. Here's why that's a huge win for you, because you don't have to be a tech wizard or try to time the market just right with Bitcoin. With Coinbits Roundups, you simply set it, shop, and stack sats. And you can set this up in under 2 minutes. Just visit the website, connect your card, and boom, you're buying a little Bitcoin every time you spend money. So stop wasting your time with complicated exchanges or confusing shitcoin apps. Coinbits simplifies your Bitcoin savings strategy. So go to coinbits.app/breedlove. Again, that's coinbits.app/breedlove /breedlove. I'm going to ask you like the nature nurture question though, because you've been doing this work. You said 4 years, I think.
The work that I've been doing?
Yeah.
No, I've been doing it since, I think I started my training in 2008.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I mistook when you left LA. So that was the wrong timeline. But
I was already doing it in LA for a long time.
How much of your, this sort of tranquil twilight state, if I may call it that, how much of that is the work versus you think just nature?
It's a good question. I think it's both. I mean, I ask myself that question all the time, and you know, I read all the stuff about nature versus nurture and the different opinions about it. I'm obviously I have a bias because I've seen it. Like I've seen the impact that that trauma or difficult childhood, you know, have on people and how it affects their sense of reality and their sense of satisfaction in their life and the patterns that they play. But at the end of the day, like, people are who they are. Like there's something that's inescapable.
That sounds static and scary.
Well, my mom says this about me. She's like, you are like who you are. Like when you came out,
right?
Like you're exactly the way you were when you were a child, like the same energetic imprint. And that, there is something that's a little bit scary about that I can't actually get away from it. But also there's something that's really comforting about it. So I can just let go.
Right.
And I can stop judging myself. Like this is who I am and, you know, take responsibility and keep trying to improve myself, notice where I'm in distortion and all of that. But there is some kind of essence that's just, it's just who I am. And it's okay. And maybe it's more than okay. It's like, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Wow. It was just like occurring to me that maybe that's like a natural progression of growth itself, right?
Yeah.
When you're younger, like your mom will stereotypically tell you, just be yourself, you know? And like teenagers are having identity crises and who knows how long that lasts, right?
Yeah.
Again, when you're in your 20s, you're just an adult teenager. So like a lot of people, I know I was still not fully, you know, done growing basically in my 20s psychologically for sure. But then as you get into your twilight years, like you have actually, I mean, you're a product of what you've done.
That's right.
But there's also this natural progression of like ossification that has to take place.
Yeah.
Right? You become more solid in who you are. Now that could be bad if you've been blasting Marlboro Reds for 30 years or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know why I chose that, but like just some really bad decision. Psychologically or physically. And that can ossify and be, you know, good or bad, I guess. So I don't know. I wrestle with the question too, because I know when I had my daughter, I definitely felt when she came into the world that my nature flipped a switch in me, very major. You know, so
I would imagine. Well, you've got a daughter to provide for and protect.
Yeah.
Something must have woken up inside you that was dormant or just waiting.
But you don't know. Like again, I don't know. Maybe there's just no line to draw between nature and nurture. It's
I don't think there's a line to draw. I think I you know, again, as I've gotten older, because, you know, people say, oh, age is just a number. I'm like, no, man, it's not just a number. I remember the day when I was like 38 years old, when I went, you know, on the ice skating for a puck and I didn't have it. Like I didn't have the you know, that jump in my step. I'm like, what the fuck was that? And then it happened a week later and all of a sudden it's like, I couldn't keep up with the kids anymore. That was real, you know, that wasn't a figment of my imagination.
For sure.
And then, you know, your values change, your priorities change, you know, you're not looking at every, you know, pretty girl that walks by anymore. You're just, you know, you have other things that you're thinking about, which is also a huge relief. I got a friend, you know, young guy, who's like horny all the time and he can't stop thinking about it. I'm like, I got to tell you, bro, it's a relief. You don't realize the fucking insanity that you are in when your hormones are pumping. There's a whole other world out there, you know? And that's also, it's like a sad because there's a letting go because there's so much aliveness in that, you know, and your desire. But there's what's on the other side is like, it's incredible. And we do go through these life cycles. That's what I've learned. And we have to accept like what cycle that we're in. And I realize like I'm in this kind of cycle and there has been some struggle in accepting it. Cause I don't want, you know, I want to be young and strong and virile and, you know, I used to have girls checking me out all the fucking time when I walk down the street. That doesn't happen anymore. 25-year-old girls, they don't give a shit about me. I'm just some old man with a gray beard. And it's just like,
I don't know, man. Chicks love the gray beards.
yeah, but it's different. You know what I mean? It's not,
it's definitely different.
It's daddy.
Yeah.
It's not a
daddy.
primal desire, right? That you're evoking inside them, you know, and that feels pretty fucking good when you're a man.
That's true.
That's gone, right?
Yeah.
But it's okay because there's other things that are available, but it does take a minute for you to like settle in and accept and let go. But I'm, for the guys that I know who are bros who are younger, I'm just like, don't worry about it. It's all good. It's actually, especially if you lived your life in a good way and you're pursuing something that was meaningful, not getting older is fantastic. I can't wait to be like, I used to be like 70. I'm like, yeah, no problem.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not worried about it.
Is this like what? So what would be your aspirational goals then between now and 70? Is it like becoming the wise man? Is it?
Yeah.
So you're a philosopher in a way. I mean, you're pursuing wisdom.
I'm pursuing wisdom. I'm trying to pursue depth. I'm trying to pursue more meaningful experiences. Really at this point in my life, all of my work is around personal work is just around getting closer to God. So I'm only doing things to deepen my connection to God. And that wasn't the way it was always, and I'm glad that I have this, psychological base to work from, that I've really studied psychology and the psyche in a deep way and consciousness. But there's something about like connecting to God and what's the mechanism by which I want to do that. For me, it's through the Native American ceremonies that feels like, for whatever reason, that's what I'm drawn to. And it opens something up. And so then how do I integrate everything that I've experienced and learned into kind of one, I don't know, package like philosophy, and then try to bring that out into the world so that the people who want to learn from that can learn. But to leave something behind, I guess it's also like I start to think about my legacy. Like I'm thinking about writing a book. I never thought about fucking writing a book, but I'm like, no, people keep saying, you got to write this shit down, bro.
Yeah, you do have to write it down. Yeah. I've been working on the same. It's painful.
Yeah, writing is hard. Yeah. So, it feels... I mean, it's just even that I'm able to sit down. I mean, I saw you a couple of years ago and I'm like, what an interesting guy. Now I'm sitting here talking to you. It's like, that's such a privilege for me.
Dude, it's so cool because I had no idea until today that you've ever watched anything.
Oh, yeah. No.
What was your introduction to, I guess, Bitcoin and the show?
Yeah, I think it was Impact Theory,
which
I'm sure a lot of people found you. And that was just a long conversation. And Tom.
Tom
he's a very good interviewer. And you guys went to some deep places. I mean, obviously, the when you explained, I didn't ever understood the financial system, and I didn't understand why I didn't understand it until you explained it. And then I was like, oh, because it's bullshit. I was going in with the assumption that it was fair and reasonable. But it's not. And so that was a huge moment for me. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I get this now. And then, when you explain Bitcoin and how it's all related, it's suddenly like the lights went off. And then when you got into the deeper conversation, around, Bitcoin as God, like I was right in on that. And that whole discussion, which again, I thought you talked about in a really nuanced way. It just opened something up philosophically. It's what I was looking for. Like I knew that there was something around Bitcoin and this emerging technology and the financial system that was related to everything that was happening, but I couldn't, put my finger on it. And suddenly I saw that and I was like, oh, fuck. And then I was like, this guy, he looks like a movie star. He's jacked.
Thanks, dude.
And his name's Robert Breedlove. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, and I was like, babe, you got to see this fucking guy. His name's Breedlove. And we talked about it. Breedlove. Imagine if your name is Breedlove.
What's funny is that last name is not uncommon in the South, at least out in Tennessee. I mean, it's uncommon enough, but people have heard it. But when I've gone outside of the South, people are always just like blown away. Like, what? That's your real name? And I'm always joking because I actually have my mom's last name. I'm like, yeah, thanks. My mom gave it to me. It's like my first birthday present. And it's been, I don't know. They made fun of me when I was a kid. They used to call me Robert Booty Love.
Wow.
And the kids making fun of me, their last names were Smith and Hanson. So like I had nothing. Right. I was like, they're just, their nickname or their last names are too plain.
Yeah.
And they just picked on me and like, I really got under my skin. So I like didn't like it a little bit.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But then I've grown to love it. Like to love. I mean, come on. It's like, God is love, right? It's the most, it is everything basically. When you get all the way down to it, it seems somehow it's all cohered by love. Yeah. And so like, I'm honored to have it in my name.
No, it's incredible. Well, the avatar that you are online, the whole thing is in this video game, it's like you're an amazing
in the video game
character,
dude,
a really compelling character, and then because I think about these things like in an archetypal way, and so the name, I mean, breed love, like.
You know what it descends from is one of my ex-girlfriends, I have them out in the office. A girl I dated a long time ago had my 2 family crests drawn up and then like kind of a written history about where they came from.
Yeah.
And so breed love was like derived from a Scottish clan name that meant wolf hunter or wolf trapper. Like it doesn't actually mean breed love. It was bridal love or whatever it was. And it changed over, 500-600 years to be breed love. So although it sounds beautiful and loving, it's like
it's wolf hunter.
It's wolf hunter, yeah.
Well, that works too.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't discover that till later, but yeah, I'm like that's cool too. Like, I'll take either one, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe that's another thing where as I get older, maybe as I was younger, and if we were the same age, I probably would have been in competition with you. Like I would have been checking out, but there's something about when you get older, you're not in competition with anybody anymore. And so you can see people more clearly.
It's the sexual thing again.
Yeah,
what you just said. And like, that's something we don't talk about enough. Talk about the unconscious conscious, like, especially when you're hormonally driven at that age, you're just like in this hyper competitive marketplace all the time. Like it's the conversation going on beneath every conversation. Yeah. And as you know, what do they call that in LA? Peter Pan syndrome. Like a lot of these guys try to keep in that game well past their expiration date. And it's sad, right? You see the 60-year-old guys out still chasing tail.
It's very sad.
It's fucking sad. And like, I'm glad I lived in LA long enough to see that and internalize that because that was also very helpful in just getting your life together, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't like, maybe that's just, again, that's nature.
It's nature. There's no escaping. That's what I was saying with my young clients. It's like, I can give you a certain kind of wisdom. I can give you some perspective of what's going on in your life, help you make sense of things. But also you're 25 years old. You got to go through it, bro.
Yeah.
Like you're competing with other guys. You're going to be obsessed with money and status and building. Like, just go through it. Try to keep your feet in the ground as best you can. Have some perspective, but it's just where they're at.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. I think you can give them like the ethical principles.
Yeah.
Again, radical truth, radical responsibility, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like they're definitely going to deviate. Everyone deviates from it at some point, right? We've all told a lie. We've all been irresponsible. Yeah. But if you really, hopefully this is like the value of a graybeard is like, we can hammer in how important these things are. And well, that list is, who knows, like there's many things. Actually, that's a great question. What would be on that list? What should we be hammering into the young men? Like, even though they're going to go through it, what are like the Graybeard Commandments?
Wow. Well, I think self-forgiveness is the big one. Like try not to succumb to shame. You have to give yourself a lot of latitude and to make mistakes. And have the awareness of where it's coming from, like that all of our acting out, all of our mistakes, and sometimes we can do real damage to others and to ourselves. It's not you. That's not you, right? That's your defense, right? So you're protecting some part of you that is afraid or was hurt. And so if you can just create that separation, right, and then be able to forgive yourself for that, I think you're so far ahead and able to you're much more trustable in that place. Because as I said earlier, you're much less likely to continue to act out because you're less identified with it. Right. That's not an easy concept for people to understand, especially if they don't understand that they have a defense. But beyond that, I think it's all the regular things like live a life, that has meaning, like pursue meaning.
That's a hard one, man.
It's a hard one.
Like, means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
The
meaning of meaning. That one's, I've gone on that loop quite a few times.
Well, and it's easy to delude yourself. About things and about what it is you want. I want this thing, and then we can rationalize why, and we can create a meaning in our mind that's maybe not really true. Which is why the forgiveness piece is so important, because it's almost like you're gonna fuck up, you're gonna make mistakes, and staying. I mean, and some spiritual
discipline,
orientation, discipline, connection, something that keeps you on the. I mean, you have to explore. You have to. I mean, as I said, you have to make your own mistakes. Like I'm a big believer in that. But you don't want to go too far off the path. So I think you need something that kind of keeps you in line a little bit. But again, guys are growing up without. If you're growing up without a dad, I don't really see that there's any way. Like, you got to go through it. Like, you're gonna have to. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fuck up. You're going to bang your head against the wall, whatever it looks like, because those are big wounds. And so that, again, that's why I just keep coming back to the forgiveness piece. It's like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, you're okay. Like you're not, like, there's nothing deficient. You just, you got your algorithm got trained on some bad data. That's all. That's all it is.
The metaphor is important too, right? Rather than being the machine, well, I don't know. The machine doesn't work because it's not complex enough, right? It doesn't describe enough of what we are. And you think like, oh, let me fix the bolt or whatever. And like, that's not, it's way more complex than that. But the algorithm software metaphor is very useful because that is where you have freedom actually, is to select those consumption points. And now, of course, you're going to get whatever, I mean, I feel a little bit called to ask you this question. Although it's very, like, I guess I could say my mother wound manifested as serial dating, to put it nicely, in LA, and womanizing, to put it unnicely. And that's not, you were talking earlier about where all men in that age are in that competition. And you may think that running that competition to the end of the finish line, or there's no finish line, but like, just running towards that North Star would be super fulfilling, but it's not, and like, you have to learn that the hard way. So as a man that was at the top of the game and, I don't know if you dealt with that or how you dealt with that or how young men, because again, you're wrestling with some deep stuff there. It's like the testosterone and the impulse versus like trying to grow and be a good man. Like they can be at odds.
Well, that's a big,
you got to go through that too.
Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, that opens up a whole conversation about the masculine feminine dynamic and what's happening in the culture around that. And, what's been happening around, feminism and so what would I say to men is, don't believe what women say. And not because women are liars.
Right.
But just because it's hard to be a young woman right now. And there's a lot of pressures and there's a lot of mixed messages they're getting. Yeah. And I think they don't really know what they want and who they are. And I think that's also true of men.
Yeah.
But if you have a mother wound and you haven't been, didn't have a dad around, or the relationship between mom and dad was that the mom was dominant in some way, or you felt dominated by a woman, it's very likely that you're going to orient yourself to her. That's a mistake.
Right.
Like if you're trying to please her, if you're trying to make her happy, if you're trying to do what she says, that is not good for you, and it's not good for her. It doesn't mean be a dick and do whatever the fuck you want. I mean, be attuned and be sensitive.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you have to. One of the messages that I'm putting out to young men right now, and men in general, is like you have to claim your authority, your masculine authority within the relationship, and as a father as well. Like it's not good if women are dominant. They're not happy and you're not happy.
That's right.
And so how do you step up? How do you stand up?
Yes.
Call out their bullshit in a way that is loving, compassionate, but also firm, because there is a kind of right order.
Yeah.
The yin and the yang, and they work together, and finding that harmony is not easy, but it's ultimately because the masculine is the leader, it's our responsibility.
Yes.
They ain't going to do it.
Yes, it is. It's biblical, right? That women are to submit to, and it's not like it gets polarized in the culture debate, like it's men versus women, but it's actually not. It's masculine energy and feminine energy, and we're all a mix of both.
That's right.
And you can have all different relational dynamics between different proportions of each in each person. But the masculine energy is what you're describing, right? It's like it needs to be the deeply rooted tree during the storm.
That's right.
And the storm is beautiful, right? That's women are dynamic, they're creative, they're intuitive, like they have all these gifts, but it comes with, that association with entropy, right? They're entropic, and especially, on the moon cycle, right? They're extra entropic. And as the man, we are more of the rational, logical, orderly. Yeah. Not to say that we are not fucked up too. I love Louis C.K. what he said. Men, here goes the F word again. I can't avoid it. Men fuck shit up, but women will fuck you up. Yeah. He goes, they'll shit in your heart. It's so and this has been key to my learning, my journey is even with my wife, like to learn how to, as you said, disidentify with, and my wife's a brilliant, philosophical, rational human, like most of the time,
right.
But then
she's a woman.
She's a woman, right? And so my learning has been how to know when to oscillate between the two. And then the joke is like, you just need to meet them with love and security, like, because ultimately they're scared underneath it. Yeah. So as my wife, we're working on these dynamics, she's like, you really just need to hug me. Yeah. And I was like, you want me to hug a thrashing animal? Like, is that not actually, but she doesn't seem huggable in that moment. Yeah. But it's actually been that simple, like it's not ideal. It doesn't work every time. Doesn't mean we don't fight, but it's like so many things can be resolved. If she's saying something like, I don't need to go to this to solve that problem. It's like, you just shut up, look at her, walk over and give her like a good bear hug. Yeah. Remind her she's half my size, I guess. Yes. And then it resolves so many things.
Yeah. I had a friend, he was like, you just got to go to the body. Like, don't argue with women. Like, just touch them. Yes. Like, once you touch them, once you hold them, once you give them a massage, like that, they'll calm down. It's everything's fine. It's somatic. Yeah. And that's true. And exactly what you're saying. It's actually our last fight. I could feel this impulse when I was like, I know she just needs me to come over there and hug her. Like, I could feel the energy. And I was like, it was, but there's a part of me that was pissed off. Yes. But I knew I could resolve the entire fight if I just went and put my arms around her and hugged her. And that everything that she was saying, all the the complaints or whatever it wasn't really real.
That's right.
You know, and that's why I say it, you know, it sounds condescending, but don't listen to what women say, but like when they're like the story it's not their orientation to be literal.
That's right. Yeah. And again, not to say that they're not capable of it.
Of course.
Even again, my wife, most of the time, like by far she's great and that's why we get along, but she's a woman. There are times where you as the man, and this is where it's like, it forces you to step into that king energy because you have to check your own ego and like not get triggered or get in your anger, get in your retaliation. You actually have to rise above the situation.
Yeah.
And then change the playing field in a way. It's like, we're going out of the words now because I can see you're off the whatever and go into touch and energy and it's a learning process and everyone's different too, right? Like, I don't know that works with every woman, but you know, it's pretty reliable.
I think everybody is different, but there is something universal about that dynamic. And we're coming back to it. I mean, my wife is suddenly like, every time she cooks, she's like, look what a good trad wife I am. You know, she's into it. Yeah. And it was a transition for her.
Yeah.
Because when we got together, I was like, I don't want you to work.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and she worked. She had a little business she had for years. Yeah. She wasn't happy in it anymore. I'm like, you don't have to work. And she didn't know who she was and what she was going to do. I mean, she does all kinds of things, but it's what it represented.
Yeah.
And we both had to go through that. And it was tricky because of, you know, the images that we'd been fed, but we're both much happier in the dynamic. And ironically, it feels like we're more in equality. For sure. It's a different kind of equality, but it's
multiplicative in my experience. Like, I feel my wife loves to cook and she's very feminine in that regard. And I love to eat. So like, that's one of our magic touch points. And the more she's in there, like seeing her in the kitchen, making the food, like her sexiness goes up and like, it's so hot and it's amazing. And then she makes amazing food. And I just feel nurtured, I guess. The masculine feels taken care of. So then I'm like really showing up. I'm being productive and protective and, you know, rational, trying to be rational to diffuse the arguments at the right time and be a good leader. And there is a virtuous dynamic that can be established. And it's, I don't know, the whole modern notion that that's oppressive somehow it's just deeply wrong. It's evolutionarily wrong and it's culturally wrong and traditionally wrong. It's like, if you want to change to that, great, but it's never worked ever.
Well, the fact that we're able to talk about it without really apologizing or putting all kinds of disclaimers, which we probably would have 5 or 10 years ago, it shows that like the culture is shifting because, you know, women that's what they want.
Yes.
Or many are realizing that's what they want. And it forces you to rise up as a man. You know, it's like, okay, I got to provide for my woman, you know, it's like, that's what I wanted. It's like, I don't want you working. I want to feel myself as the provider. I want to know who I am there. And that's the only way that I'm going to claim my king energy, as you said.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Well, I want to ask you I've kept you too long already.
What time is it?
5:20.
Okay. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we should wrap it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up. I just wanted to ask.
No
Radical
rush.
Truth has been so transformative for my wife and I. And I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but like, I feel like that's one thing I would really suggest the young men focus on, because it's not easy, but it's very simple, right? It's clarifying. You can always ask yourself, were you in Radical Truth or not? And of course, there's a million shades of gray and all that, but like, what are your views on that? And is there anything else that you think? I'm asking about the Graybeard Commandments again. Is there anything we left off the list?
Well, the thing that I would say about Radical Truth is first you have to be able to know what the truth is. And it's not always easy to know what the truth is about how you're feeling.
That's very true.
Because we are so prone to disassociate from our feelings or judge our feelings, make them bad, make them wrong. And so we can compensate or rationalize. So, the simplest thing that I'm trying to teach men is to come into contact with what they're feeling, which is really simple. I'm excited, I'm angry, I'm sad, or I'm afraid. And the two that I really push on men is especially in relationship to women, but in general, I'm afraid or I feel hurt. and your woman saying something or doing something that annoys you or agitates you or leaves you frustrated, probably what's underneath that is hurt. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's not an easy place to get to, because it's like, I don't want to feel that a woman can hurt me, because it's extremely vulnerable. But when I feel not taken care of, unappreciated, not seen, I'm hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the humility and the courage that it takes to be able to acknowledge that there are places where I feel hurt, and that it's okay, and that I don't need to do anything about it. I just need to exist in the place where I'm hurt, where I have pain, or I'm afraid, which is another tough one for men to come into contact with. It's hard being a man in the world because of the competition and the expectations put on us. And I think it is true. There's a lack of empathy and understanding about, at least culturally, about what's going on for men and their internal emotional experience. It really, the message is just fucking man up.
Bottle it up.
Right? Yeah, bottle it up and deal with it. We don't want to hear about it. And so that's why I think it is important for us to have conversations like this, and for men to get together and to talk about it, and get that, the affirmations from each other, but to understand that you're probably afraid a lot more than you know. Mm-hmm. In fact, a lot of the time that, we're afraid, and that women are scary, because women can reject us.
Yes.
And it's very painful to feel that. And the defense against that is where, we can do a lot of damage. Like, fuck women, fuck those bitches. They're all whores, whatever. Like, all those distortions don't do anything for us. And then life in general is difficult. It's hard to make it out there. I mean, you don't know when you're a young guy, when you're 21, am I going to make it? Is this going to happen for me?
Yeah.
Make
it.
Exactly. And so it's fucking scary, and it never stops being scary. And there's something about being able to know when you're afraid, and just be with it. That's the expression that I use, that I learned on one of my vision quests, because you're in discomfort all the time. And it was just like, I got to be with this. I got to be with this hunger. I got to be with this discomfort. Just be with it. Be with it. So I learned also just to be with my fear. There it is again. And then I'm able to determine whether or not I'm in reality. Like, is this fear legitimate, or is this something from my history? But I can't make that determination unless I've actually come into contact with it and allowed myself to know it a little bit. Otherwise, I'm in the defense. I'm in the rationalization. I'm creating a story in my mind. I'm not really in reality. So in some sense, coming into contact with our base emotions, fear, pain, anger, excitement, that puts you into presence, right? Which is, you're in base reality, or close to base reality as you can get in this, whenever we're in here. And from there, you can see things more clearly and make better decisions. That is a skill that you can practice, but you do need help with it. You need somebody to kind of reflect it back to you, or, that's exactly. I mean, I have a course that I'm start teaching tonight called Emotional Mastery for Men, and there's all kinds of concepts that I teach, but at the end of the day, it's really that. Like, can you come into contact with your emotions? Can you name them, and can you stay present with them? Because if you can stay present with them, you're not going to act out from that place and create all kinds of problems for yourself. So, I don't know if that's
great.
Clear.
No, that's great. That's the truth.
Too abstract, but
no. The truth, especially of your feelings, is hard to come in contact with. Yeah. That's good to know. Like, because don't expect to get it on the first try.
That's right.
Yeah. Dude, thank you so much for this conversation. I hope people find this useful and valuable. I don't see how they couldn't. I mean, we're all struggling with this.
Yeah.
To some extent, some way, somehow, some way. So thank you for your work. And where can people find out more about you, your work, et cetera, on the internet?
DavidSutcliffe.com, my website, it's all there. But the thing that I'm putting a lot of my energy into now is this men's work. And I've titled it like School for Kings. So I'm starting that. Cool. And I'm really, that's where all my energy is going to go. So check out School for Kings, DavidSutcliffe.com. It's all there. But thank you, man. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, David. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.